Chapter 860. The reason why he chose these 3 treasures was because the other 6 treasures were not compatible with his own attribute. The heavenly cycle star map was the hub of billions of stars. It was a treasure that gathered stars and order into one. Qin Feng did not cultivate order, so this item had nothing to do with him. The immeasurable star god seal was a treasure that gathered stars and suppressed them into one. If Qin Feng was determined to cultivate the Tao of stars, this treasure would be a good choice. The immeasurable star god seal suppressed all the stars in the sky and gathered the authority of thousands of stars into one. This item also had a second form, the 10,000 stars scepter. The zither of heavenly sounds was also very powerful. The zither of heavenly sounds was powerful enough to shatter a star region and recreate the earth, water, wind, and fire. This item was like adding wings to a tiger for an expert who cultivated the law of sound. There was also the divine land's cauldron of mountains and rivers and the Myrtle Emperor sword. The Myrtle Emperor sword was a treasure created by an ancient emperor who specialized in the Tao of stars. This item was extremely powerful and possessed unimaginable power. It could only be cultivated by cultivators of the Tao of stars who had many emperor stars as their natal stars. Since ancient times, no one had cultivated this treasure except for the ancient emperor called Emperor Myrtle. However, there were people who had cultivated the 4 symbols true king sword, the superior astral ruler sword. However, this type of astral treasure was close to the Tao of emperors and was extremely difficult to deshang. Unless one's fate was strong enough and had the body of an ancient emperor, there was a chance. Or, if one had the body of a hidden dragon, there was also a chance. As for the rest, even the ruler of a country would not be able to deshang. In short, this treasure could only be cultivated by an emperor. The divine land's cauldron of mountains and rivers was a supreme divine weapon born from the Tao of earth and water. It had the ability to suppress mountains and rivers, but it also had extremely strict requirements. Qin Feng could also cultivate this treasure, and it was quite compatible with him. However, he did not focus on the water origin source law in his body. Cultivating this treasure would not benefit him at all. It might even cause him to put the cart before the horse. On the contrary, he could choose from the Tower of Stars, the primeval star refining pot, and the yin-yang supreme heavenly mirror. Among the 3 treasures, Qin Feng was more interested in the Tower of Stars. The Tower of Stars was ranked 3rd in the heavenly cycle stellar weapon mystic record. It was a stellar Tao treasure that gathered the stars, suppressing space and time into one. It wasn't just a supreme treasure of the Tao of the stars. Moreover, it was a space-time treasure. Qin Feng specialized in the Tao of space. The benefits of this item to him were self-evident. Next would be the yin-yang supreme heavenly mirror. The yin-yang supreme heavenly mirror contained the mysteries of yin and yang. Qin Feng had a deep understanding of yin and yang. Naturally, he was interested in the enhancement of yin and yang. If he could refine it and integrate it into the chaos realm, it would be an excellent supplement for the birth of the yin and yang cycle in the chaos realm. There was also the primeval star refining pot. This flask contained the mysteries of the universe. It could swallow all things and transform them into pure origin energy. It was a supreme treasure for murder and arson. Almost any attack could be devoured by this pot. It was extremely terrifying. All kinds of thoughts flashed through his mind. When he thought of the primitive star refining pot, Qin Feng's expression became somewhat subtle. In the records of later generations, the natal treasure of the primordial martial emperor, Yi Ding, seemed to be the primitive star refining pot. Combining the primitive star refining pot with the devouring law, Qin Feng shook his head. This combination was terrifying. However, if he succeeded in refining the Tower of Stars, he wouldn't be afraid of the power of the primitive star refining pot. Qin Feng still had some thoughts about the primitive star refining pot. He was the closest to this treasure. Among the 6 most important divine materials, the primeval qi and the connate yin and yang qi were in Qin Feng's hands. The Tower of Stars, on the snowy peak, Qin Feng murmured. Divine light flowed in his eyes. He almost made a decision in an instant. However, refining this Tao of the Stars treasure, which was ranked 3rd in the heavenly cycle stellar weapon list, wasn't easy. There were thousands of kinds of precious spiritual materials. As for the other supplementary spiritual materials, he could perhaps exchange them through the Xingqian school. Even with Qin Feng's current wealth, it was difficult to exchange for so many supplementary spiritual materials, let alone the 9 core divine materials. Although 4 or 5 of the 9 core divine materials are very rare, I should be able to buy them through the Spirit Treasure Sect. The rarest ones are the 4 core divine materials, the Stellar Steel, the Hong Meng Divine Jade, the Stone of Time and Space, and the Primal Chaos Source Qi. As his thoughts changed, Qin Feng smiled bitterly. These 4 divine materials were things that only existed in legends. Each of them was an Archean supreme treasure. Among them, the Hong Meng Divine Jade and the Primal Chaos Source Qi were second-rate Archean supreme treasures. These 2 items would bring unimaginable benefits to the Grotto Heaven. If an ordinary person heard about these 4 supreme treasures, they would have despaired and given up. However, Qin Feng revealed a smile on his face. He remembered a treasure that was about to appear. If he remembered correctly, that treasure contained the Stellar Steel, the Hong Meng Divine Jade, the Stone of Time and Space, and the Primal Chaos Source Qi. That treasure was related to the rise and fall of the Xingqian school. This treasure was somewhere in the realm of stars, and it was called the Star God Treasure Vault. This Star God Treasure Vault was related to the ancient Emperor Ziwei. In fact, this treasure vault was created by the descendants of Emperor Ziwei. When Emperor Ziwei ruled over the era, he had 8 heavenly kings, 365 celestial lords, and billions of astral soldiers and astral generals. Emperor Ziwei was known as the Lord of Stars. He was also an existence that ruled over an era. However, at the end of the era, Emperor Ziwei disappeared, and the imperial dynasty collapsed. His hegemony came to an end. The last crown prince went into hiding, and then called himself the ancestral master of stars. He established the Primal Chaos Xingqian school and established a foundation that lasted for thousands of years. It grew stronger step by step through many eras, and at its peak it was one of the top 10 divine sections. It was divided into 10 branches, and among them, the Xingqian school, Tianliang sect, and the Sun-Moon Sword sect were the strongest. Among the sects, there was a rumor that before the Primal Chaos Xingqian school was divided, there was a Star God Treasure Vault. The secret of this Star God Treasure Vault was in the hands of the Primal Chaos Xingqian school's headmaster of each generation. It was the top secret of the Primal Chaos Xingqian school. However, with the disappearance of the headmaster of that generation, this secret also became an illusory legend. In fact, Qin Feng had an idea about this secret. In his memory, in less than 2 years, Yi Ding would discover this secret and obtain this treasure vault. In some obscure records, it seemed that Yi Ding accidentally met the descendants of the disappeared headmaster and discovered this secret. In the end, through some forceful means, he opened this secret vault and obtained many divine materials. He then refined the primeval star refining pot that became famous later on. Chapter 861. How did Yi Ding find the descendant of the sect master? Qin Feng muttered to himself as he racked his brains. After such a long time, it was already his limit to gather so much useful information. As for the descendant of the sect master, Qin Feng only vaguely remembered from some miscellaneous records that he seemed to be from a small family in Changshan City. Changshan City was not far from Yunhu City, where the Qin family was located. However, its scale was far smaller than Yunhu City of the Qin family and Taiwu City of Yi Ding. I should find a chance to investigate. I should be able to find some clues. He left the snow peak and searched the extreme north snow region. Half a day later, Qin Feng appeared in the territory of the Yan country. Below him was Haojing city of the Yan country. The huge Yanzhou mountain range was like a huge dragon circling under the clouds. The branches were tens of thousands of miles long. Qin Feng's expression changed. In a flash, he appeared above a river. On both sides of the river were beautiful green mountains. On the fertile land there were many strategic towns on both sides. Lower River Town, Upper River Town. The two towns looked at each other across the river. There was an endless stream of horses and carriages. Qin Feng changed his clothes and appeared in Shanghai Town. Since Upper River Town experienced the terrifying demon disaster, it had been completely abandoned for a period of time. However, a year ago it was rebuilt. The big families of the Shanghai city spent a lot of money to rebuild this strategic town. The strangest thing was that this time, none of the 8 big families of the Shanghai city occupied this strategic town. The overlord here was still the Qin family. However, this Qin family was not the same Qin family. Fur, good quality cloud fox fur. Not only is it flexible, it can also defend against swords and sabers. The 100-year black bone grass is sold at a low price. Everyone, come and take a look. It's said that the Star Sect's true disciple, Qin Feng, once used this herb to increase his strength greatly and escape from Qin Qingshan's pursuit. Where? Really? On the busy Bluestone Street, people came and went. The surrounding shops were imposing, giving Qin Feng a sense of closeness that he had not felt for a long time. Hearing the middle-aged man selling the black bone grass and wearing a tiger skin, Qin Feng couldn't help but turn his head to look. There were quite a few herbs on the stall. The black bone grass had purple stems and black joints, giving off a strong medicinal scent. With just a glance, Qin Feng could tell that the black bone grass in front of him was definitely less than 100 years old. Even though it had a dense medicinal aura, it was actually produced through some kind of small trick. It was definitely a fake. 10 years at most. Some young martial artists gathered around, each of them in high spirits. There were even a few well-dressed disciples who took out their purses on the spot. Qin Feng shook his head. Time to eat, time to eat. Dear customer, this is a century-old restaurant. We have steamed bear paws, braised carp, and various other delicacies that are full of essence. Ah, dear customer, please don't miss this opportunity. You might not know, but the 9th young master of the Qin clan used to eat here. Everyone, please don't miss this opportunity. The private room will be reserved. Who knows, you might be able to get together with the 9th young master. Passing by a restaurant, a clever waiter pulled many passers-by and loudly promoted their dishes. Qin Feng was startled and couldn't help but stop in his tracks. Wasn't the 9th young master his ranking in the Qin clan? He was ranked 9th and was known as the trash 9th young master. However, he didn't seem to have eaten or drunk at this Chonglong restaurant before. This was the second time Qin Feng heard someone mention his name. Who is this 9th young master? Is he famous? A passerby was puzzled. Sir, you don't know. When the 9th young master is mentioned, there is no one in Upper River Town who doesn't know him, the waiter said proudly. He glanced at the fat merchant who was dressed luxuriously and despised him in his heart. However, he laughed. The 9th young master is a long story. He is the legend of our Upper River Town and even the great Yan Kingdom. He glanced at the many unfamiliar merchants who came from all over the place and cupped his hands. Have you heard of Xingqian School? Of course we have. The Xingqian School is a big deal. Even our great Yan Kingdom can't compare to it. Rumor has it that it is the origin of thousands of sections. There are even immortals among them. A rich merchant said, his eyes full of fascination. Not only our great Yan Kingdom can't compare, but which country in the southwest can compare to such an immortal sect? Another middle-aged man said. He was dressed luxuriously and had a good temperament. Obviously, His vision was not something ordinary people could compare to. That's it. Our ninth young master is a true disciple of Xingqian school. Do you know what a true disciple is? He is the future chief candidate. The waiter cupped his hands and his eyes were as bright as the sun. Wow! He is a true disciple. Everyone sucked in a breath of cold air. Seeing this, the waiter hurriedly said, "Hey everyone, it seems like you all want to know more about the story of that legendary true disciple. You may enter the store to rest for a while. It just so happens that the store has invited a famous storyteller here. Everyone can listen to the story of that true disciple while eating and drinking. That's great. Let's go in. Waiter, quickly arrange for the storyteller. Let's go in too." Most of the people were attracted and rushed into the restaurant. Qin Feng smiled and turned to leave. He did not expect his name to spread so quickly. In fact, he had underestimated the power of Xingqian school. Qin Feng's figure flashed and crossed the street. He appeared in the inner residence of the Qin family. The decorations here were similar to the old Qin family. It was equally prosperous and lively. It occupied the most prosperous place in this small town. Probably because the Qin family was newly built, this place did not have the historical impact of the old village. It was luxurious, grand, with red walls and green tiles. The courtyard was not inferior to that of a noble's house. It was like a local emperor. Qin Feng walked step by step into the inner room. Many young disciples of the Qin family brushed past him, but they ignored him. Qin Feng still had some impressions of many of the faces here. They were the original disciples of the Qin family. However, these disciples' appearances had changed a lot. They were less arrogant and more capable. These disciples of the previous direct descendants did not seem to be living very well. The one in charge seemed to be a collateral disciple. Qin Feng went straight into the inner hall. He saw the new head of the Qin family in Upper River Town. Head of the family, only 3 disciples of the various branches were selected this time. However, these 3 disciples are the elites of the elite. I think they should have a chance to pass the finals of the Shanha City competition. Hearing the words of the old voice, the eyes of many elders in the inner hall lit up. The Shanha City competition was the most important thing for the various branches. It was also where the future of the young disciples lay. If they passed the finals, they would be able to stay in the Shanha City Qin family and cultivate there. If they became the champion, it would be even more amazing. It was said that they would be directly sent to the main branch of the Qin family in Yunhu City and receive the best training there. They would even have a chance to meet the legendary head of the family. Third update. There's still one more update. Everyone, vote hard. Don't be lazy. Chapter 862. That legendary patriarch was a true disciple of Xingqian school. If one could gain his recognition, then it would be like a carp leaping over the dragon's gate. Many of the elders' eyes were burning with passion. Who didn't want their disciples to have a bright future? If another person like that legendary family head were to appear, the day of his family's meteoric rise would be just around the corner. Many of the elders looked at Patriarch Qin Gang on the throne. Many of the elders knew this person's background. A few years ago, this person was just a branch of the Qin clan. He was just a thug. It was because he became a follower of that true disciple that he reached the heavens in one step. From an insignificant pawn, he became the ruler of Upper River Town. He started a clan and formed his own bloodline. Now, even the patriarch of the Qin clan of Mountain River City had to give this person face. Even the great Yan Kingdom's royal family gave him a title. They even sent a princess to marry him. Letting a princess of noble birth marry a small patriarch, if this was before, it would be a fantasy. Many of the elders were secretly envious of Qin Gang. Meridian's stage? Qin Feng glanced at Qin Gang on the throne. In just 2 years, this first follower had completed the leap from the 5th heavenly layer of the martial path to the Meridian stage. Meridian stage, this was a big figure in Mountain River City. Even the patriarch of the Qin clan didn't have this level of cultivation after cultivating for 60 years. Qin Feng glanced at him. Qin Gang's body didn't have any problems. Obviously, he relied on his own efforts to advance to the Meridian stage. Qin Feng remembered that when he left Great Crimson Peak, he gave Qin Gang and Qin Shou to Yu Yao. He didn't expect Yu Yao to let Qin Gang return to Upper River Town and become the new patriarch of the Qin clan. Qin Feng was slightly emotional. The scene of this middle-aged man following Qin Shou to seek refuge was still fresh in his mind. Qin Feng was satisfied with Yu Yao's arrangement. Qin Gang and Qin Shou had already missed the best time to cultivate. Deshang could do whatever he wanted. If they continued to follow, it would be a waste of time. Becoming the head of a branch family was the best choice. In the end, the fate of being master and servant with Qin Feng was not in vain. With a single thought, a wave of ripples engulfed the entire Qin clan stronghold. Without a sound, Qin Feng's figure appeared. In the square, many elders were in a heated discussion. No one would have thought that someone would suddenly appear in front of everyone. But in the next moment, he flew into a rage. "How dare you? Who are you? How dare you trespass into the inner courtyard of the Qin family in Upper River Town? Take down this madman!" Many elders of the Qin family were furious. Ever since the legendary family leader appeared, no one had dared to provoke the Qin family so openly. "Shut up!" From the throne, a thunderous roar rang out. The faces of the elders changed. The usually dignified patriarch Qin Gang was filled with rage. Beside him, the Grand Elder Qin Fourth Master looked at the black-robed man with a face full of shock. The two of them walked down from their thrones excitedly. They prostrated themselves on the ground in a pious manner, as if they were kowtowing to a god. "Your Honor! Your Honor!" Hearing this address, many elders were stunned. Your Honor, even the patriarch of the Qin clan in Mountain River City, was not worthy of such an honorable address. In the entire Qin clan, there were dozens of branches, but there was only one Your Honor, and that was the legendary patriarch. Could it be that the person in front of them was that legendary patriarch? Many elders vaguely recognized Qin Feng. The current Qin Feng was more mature than a few years ago, and the change in his temperament was like heaven and earth. Some elders were trembling, and their faces were red. "A big shot! A big shot! A big shot has arrived!" Clatter, clatter, clatter. "Mountain River City's Qin clan greets Your Honor. Rise." Qin Feng shook his head and waved his sleeves. Everyone's body seemed to be lifted up by an invisible force. Qin Feng glanced at Qin Gang and Qin Fourth Master on the throne. A wave of space energy enveloped the two of them, and in the next moment, they appeared above the Qiang mountain range. In the quiet courtyard, the ancient locust tree emitted dense yin qi. Entering this place felt as if they had entered a cold winter. Among the ancient locust tree, a light flashed and three figures appeared. This was the small courtyard on the Qiang mountain range. Qin Feng was born here, and in the end, he reversed his fate and seized everything from Qin Feng, laying the foundation for his rise. Divine Black Tortoise? The expert who once shone in the golden era had now become a cripple, and was living in the villa next door with the patriarch, Qin Qingshan. Qin Gang and Qin Fourth Master's faces changed, and their faces were filled with shock. In the blink of an eye, they had crossed tens of miles and appeared above the Qiang mountain range. Qin Feng glanced at the surroundings. This place was still preserved in its original state before he left. The broken door had also been repaired by someone. Although no one had lived here for many years, it was still neat and tidy. Not even a single leaf had fallen in the courtyard. Obviously, Qin clan often sent people to clean this place. Qin Feng glanced at a vegetable field in the small courtyard. In the vegetable field, many tender sprouts were fluttering in the wind. Qin Feng seemed to see the scene of the little girl in a bramble hairpin and a cloth skirt working hard a few years ago. The little girl had spent a week to make this vegetable field, and she had been humiliated by many Qin clan disciples in order to make this vegetable field. Ugly freak, she is indeed born to be a village girl. Village girl and trash, a match made in heaven. The scene of sunset reappeared, and Qin Feng still felt some anger in his heart, as if it had appeared with this memory. But in the next moment, it turned into warmth. With a creak, the door opened. The simple house was dark, and under the window, a crude loom appeared in front of Qin Feng's eyes. The furniture here was still there, and it maintained the same appearance as before Qin Feng left. Qin Gang had indeed put in a lot of effort. The leaking paper windows were still there, and the thin tiles that let in a few rays of light. Every blade of grass, every tree, every brick, and every tile seemed to have a different kind of warmth to Qin Feng. His fingers were rubbing sand. Qin Gang and Fourth Master Qin looked at him, not daring to speak. After a while, Qin Feng raised his head and looked at the two of them. You did well, Qin Gang. You once followed me for thousands of miles through wind, frost, snow, and rain. I will never forget this friendship. You deserve this. Qin Feng suddenly raised his head and pointed at Qin Gang's forehead. An ray of light entered Qin Gang's sea of consciousness. Qin Feng looked at Fourth Master Qin and muttered to himself. Then, he waved his hand and a dense water-type true force appeared, turning into a stream of life water. It split into two and entered the bodies of the two men. In an instant, a thick layer of emerald green energy burst out from their bodies, and it was as if they had become younger by 10 years in an instant. The strength of their bodies also increased sharply. While the two men were shocked, they quickly sat down cross-legged and digested the benefits that suddenly appeared. Seeing this, Qin Feng nodded and looked at the small courtyard with nostalgia. In the next moment, his figure flashed and disappeared. After a while, a black-robed figure appeared in a dilapidated temple in the middle of a swamp. A bronze hall appeared in front of him. 6 Cauldrons Temple. Chapter 863. There were 6 ancient bronze cauldrons with ancient designs and vague patterns. There were still traces of blood on the cauldrons. Roar! Roar! A low roar came from the swamp. Bang! As if it had smelled a living person, the mud exploded and a green rock crocodile rushed out. It was like a ray of green light. In the blink of an eye, it was in front of Qin Feng. It opened its bloody mouth and bit at Qin Feng. A green rock crocodile, and a big one at that? Qin Feng faintly smiles. This green rock crocodile's body is extremely long, and its entire body is covered with green rock-like scales. Under the sunlight, it seems to reflect the light. The streamlined crocodile's body is filled with a huge amount of power. Even a martial artist of the 6th sky of the martial path would be in trouble if they encountered it. With a thought, an invisible force of space swept out like a wave. The green rock crocodile king was visibly frightened and instantly returned to its original position. Woo! This ferocious crocodile king seemed to have felt a terrifying majesty. Even though it returned to its original position, it did not dare to escape. Instead, it whimpered as if it was begging for mercy. It has some spiritual intelligence. Qin Feng suppressed it and then muttered to himself. Well, with the talent of the green rock crocodile, it is 1 in a million to be able to grow to such a size. Today I will give you a chance. If we are fated, we will meet again. A trace of dragon chi burst out from Qin Feng's body. It was like a small true dragon flying in and out of the green rock crocodile's body. It cleansed the bloodline of the green rock crocodile and then disappeared into the deepest part of the green rock crocodile's body. Suddenly, the green rock crocodile king was reborn and had a trace of pure dragon clan bloodline. If it could turn into a dragon in the future, it would be a natural dragon son of the 9 nether bloodline. Qin Feng was also spreading his bloodline and enlightening the dragon species. As the dragon ancestor, He had the responsibility to strengthen the dragon clan. At the same time, he also needed many bloodlines to protect him. What was the dragon ancestor, the ancestor of all dragons? If he could not spread his bloodline, this dragon ancestor who was alone would not be able to enjoy much fate. As if the dust had been washed away, the green rock crocodile king emitted spiritual light. It was as if it had been hit by a pie from the sky. It was extremely agile. After gaining intelligence, it kowtowed to the black-clothed man in front of it. Forget it. You're originally a ferocious beast with dual attributes of water and earth. There's also a trace of dragon blood in your body. This is also your opportunity. But if you fail to live up to expectations, don't come and see me in the future. Qin Feng pointed his finger and sent the blue rock crocodile king into the depths of the swamp. This was just one of its tricks. Shifting his gaze, Huang Xiaolong looked at the 6 cauldron divine temple. The 6 ancient cauldrons were right in front of him. Scanning them with his spiritual sense, Huang Xiaolong noticed that the 6 black tortoise cauldrons no longer had their original charm due to the loss of their inheritance. Qin Feng smiled faintly. This place could be considered the place where he made his fortune. This was also the birthplace of divine black tortoise Qin Feng. A black tortoise divine pellet and a set of black tortoise yin-yang Dao. These were the 2 people's initial resources. However, Qin Feng was certain that he would go even further than the divine black tortoise in the records. With a thought, he struck out a black tortoise fist intent. As if guided by the fist intent, the 6 cauldrons suddenly rotated, and a stone slab rumbled and moved away. Qin Feng smiled faintly and entered with a single step. Boom! The door was tightly shut. The stream murmured beside his ears. Numerous large luminous pearls illuminated the ground, giving it a gloomy glow. With a flash, a black shadow appeared in the alchemy room. A huge alchemy cauldron appeared in front of him. 3 feet and 2 ears. Looking at this alchemy cauldron, this was Qin Feng's goal for this trip. Whether it was refining pills or the Tower of Stars, he needed it as a cauldron. In these years, in All Stars College, Qin Feng had seen many cauldrons, but none of them could compare to this cauldron in front of him. In the past, the Black Tortoise True Monarch refined a divine pill like the Black Tortoise Divine Pill from this cauldron. Before he made his fortune, Qin Feng guessed that this might be a top Hotian True artifact level cauldron. But seeing it now, he still couldn't help but be amazed. How was this a Hotian True artifact level cauldron? This was clearly a peak middle heaven level cauldron with 9 immortal divine seals. And it was a top cauldron of water, fire, and wood. Feeling the 9 immortal divine seals contained in the cauldron, the 3 of them combined to form 10,000 rays of mysterious light. During the collision, there was even a trace of Xiantian inextinguishable divine light about to be born. It was only a step away from advancing to the Xiantian realm. It's really a treasure for refining pills and weapons. Rubbing the cauldron, Qin Feng smiled slightly. In fact, compared to the Black Tortoise Divine Pill, this was the most precious treasure in this ruin. This kind of alchemy cauldron was the dream of any alchemist. The first time he came, he was chased by someone and couldn't take it away. This time, Qin Feng was ready to refine it directly. A stream of origin law true force was born from his body and merged into the cauldron, quickly finding the 9 immortal divine seals in the cauldron. 3 streaks of green. 3 streaks of fiery red. 3 streaks of icy blue. They were wood, fire, and water, 3 attributes. As long as Huang Xiaolong refined these 3 seals, he would be able to directly control the cauldron. For an average person, refining this kind of immortal divine seal would require a long period of time, or even complete comprehension and familiarize themselves with these 9 immortal divine seals. Only then would they be able to fully control the cauldron. But for a half-god level array grandmaster like Qin Feng, this kind of comprehension was very simple. Half a day later, Qin Feng had refined all 9 immortal divine seals. Among them, there were wood element, while the fire element was selectively left aside by Qin Feng. From the 3 water element immortal divine seals, some of the water element profound mysteries were integrated into his comprehension of the law, nourishing the water element law. This was also a kind of cultivation method. According to Qin Feng's knowledge, a similar system was born in the future, called weapon refinement. After refining the 9 immortal divine seals, Qin Feng finally came into contact with the core of the cauldron. But strangely, he unexpectedly discovered an ancient imprint in the core of the cauldron. This imprint was in the shape of a cauldron, exuding a faint light. As if it had sensed the presence of an unfamiliar aura, it turned into a streak of light and entered Qin Feng's saint soul. Qin Feng instinctively wanted to disperse this imprint, but in the next moment, his expression changed, and he allowed the remnant will of the imprint to enter Qin Feng's body. A message entered his body. After carefully reading it, Qin Feng opened his eyes, and a trace of surprise flashed across his eyes. Black Tortoise True Monarch, Black Tortoise World? Qin Feng could faintly feel an enormous amount of origin energy that was as rich as water spirit fusing into his body. At this moment, a huge primordial world resonated with it from afar. It was a huge world domain dominated by water, even bigger than the ancient Yang world, and filled with surging vitality. Its strength was not inferior to fiend gods, and was even comparable to the endless abyss world when Qin Feng was at his peak. Even the endless abyss world was weaker than this ancient world. Ancient water element world. 3 more chapters. Chapter 864. Qin Feng found it strange. This was the final legacy that true Lord Xuanwu left for his successor when he knew that he was going to die. Through this remnant information, Qin Feng was clearer than anyone about the person who refined the Black Tortoise Divine Pellet and left behind the ruins of the 6 Cauldron Divine Temple. True Lord Xuanwu was an expert from the ancient Water Order era. That was the era of the ancient Emperor Yu. True Lord Xuanwu was originally a general under King Yu. He was one of the generals of the Water Army and suppressed countless water lineage evil gods. He even helped King Yu defeat the Ocean Emperor and established his position as the emperor. However, due to the revenge of some water lineage evil gods, his entire family was annihilated. Only his young son, who had an incomplete soul, managed to escape. What a pitiful parent! In order to treat his young son's injuries, this existence actually dared to steal the egg of the ancient true spirit Xuanwu to refine a pill to make up for his only son's flaws. Unfortunately, the Xuanwu divine pill was only half refined when the ancient Xuanwu came knocking on his door. After a battle, even though true Lord Xuanwu was a general of the Water Order dynasty and controlled a portion of the ancient water world's origin, his soul was still scattered by the Xuanwu divine god. Even when the ancient crown prince Yu stepped forward to protect him, he only left a trace of his soul. What kind of existence was the Xuanwu divine god? Its position was equivalent to that of a water lineage demon god. How could true Lord Xuanwu resist it? But it's all for me? Qin Feng had a faint smile on his face. Although it was only a trace of the ancient water world's origin, it was enough to match the northern dragon world's origin. Compared to the northern dragon world that was like the setting sun, the ancient water world was like the sun in the sky, exuding vitality. Its size was even more majestic. However, Qin Feng also felt that he did not completely control the origin of this ancient water element world. Within the origin of this ancient water element world, there were a total of 8 world lords. Qin Feng didn't touch the origin of this ancient water elemental world. Instead, he hid it secretly. This strand of water elemental world's origin was connected to the primal chaos domain. Once the time was right, Qin Feng would find a chance to completely devour this ancient world. After staying in the 6 Cauldron Divine Temple for 3 days, Qin Feng stored the cauldron called Clear Flame Cauldron into the primal chaos domain. He left Upper River Town and prepared to return to Zhuzigua and Misty Mountain. As the Vermilion-Purple Manor's mansion lord, even with the help of Ninth Lady Gongsun, True Monarch Celestial Sound, True Monarch Tai Mu and the others, he could not hide for too long. Moreover, there were still some debts that had yet to be settled. Jinbo Prefecture and Xianping Prefecture had secretly taken over the mountains of Zhuzi Prefecture. Qin Feng was not the kind of person who would not seek revenge after suffering a loss. 2 days later, after thanking the group of fellow disciples who had rushed over to help, they held a banquet for 2 days and sent off the group of fellow disciples. Qin Feng was preparing to deal with Jinbo Prefecture and Xianping Prefecture's mansion master. On this day, a guest unexpectedly came to Mount Yunwu. In the inner court, after 3 rounds of taverns, Zhang Han, Ninth Lady Gongsun, True Monarch Celestial Sound and the other fellow disciples left one by one. Qin Feng looked awkwardly at the cold and beautiful lady who had not spoken a word. She was wearing a short skirt, and her long and slender legs were astonishingly straight. Her long hair was held up by a silver hairpin, and her fine black hair flowed down and across the fragrance, accentuating her cold and beautiful aura. Even with Qin Feng's experience, such a beautiful lady could not help but feel a little strange in his heart. Senior Sister Yu-ji. Qin Feng coughed dryly, and his old face was a little unnatural. Junior brother Qin Feng, I heard that you had been to the Silver Moon race as a guest. Our race did not treat you well, and we are truly ashamed. Yu-ji's slender hand held the jade cup in her hand, and her tone was faint like the tinkling of spring water. It was pleasing to the ear with a hint of coldness. She looked at the jade cup in her hand as if she was not looking at an ordinary jade cup, but a primordial treasure. Countless wines spurted out. Qin Feng almost choked on the jade spirit wine in the jade cup, pretending to be a son-in-law and swindling the Silver Moon ceremony. This was Qin Feng's embarrassing incident. Now that he was exposed on the spot by the person involved, even if Qin Feng knew that his skin was thicker, he still could not take it. What made Qin Feng feel the most guilty was still that night that happened by accident. Thinking of that dignified and noble Silver Moon Queen, Qin Feng's heart swayed, and there was also an indescribable strange feeling. Cough cough. Slightly coughing to cover up his embarrassment, Qin Feng changed the topic. Senior Sister Yu-ji would not visit a temple without a reason. Presumably, you hurried to Mount Yunwu for other important matters. As long as Senior Sister Yu-ji has a request, this Qin will not hesitate to fulfill it. Qin Feng smiled bitterly and begged for mercy. Humph. Hearing this, the beautiful silver-robed girl snorted coldly and did not persist on this point. She had hurried over from Moonless Forest because she had an urgent matter and needed this person's help. Actually, the Silver Moon clan was not weak. They had been rooted in Xingqian school for thousands of years, and there had been strong cultivators in every generation. There were also countless people who were related to the Silver Moon clan. However, for some reason, Yu-ji immediately thought of this person who had pretended to be her son-in-law and swindled food and drinks in the Silver Moon clan. Thinking of this person's vile behavior, Yu-ji's thoughts were not smooth. Naturally, she would not let this person who had ruined her reputation have an easy time. It's a long story. I have to tell you about my Silver Moon clan's archenemy, Yu-ji said. Qin Feng's expression changed. He faintly remembered an extremely important matter in the early stage of the Gold Grandmaster. Qin Feng was very clear about the archenemy of the Silver Moon clan. There were several archenemy clans, but most of them had declined and were not a match for the current powerful Silver Moon clan. Only one of them had always existed, and that was the Moon Eclipse Demon clan. The Silver Moon clan was naturally close to the power of Moon. That was why there were always Sons of Moon in every generation. On the contrary, the other clan, the Moon Eclipse Demon clan, also had sons of Moon in every generation. They were both cultivators of the path of Moon, but there was only one Moon God seat. These two clans were natural enemies of the Great Tao. Moreover, in terms of talent, the Moon Eclipse Demon clan was slightly stronger. The Moon God seat. The Sun and Moon were the masters of Yin and Yang. The deity seats of these two sects were not to be underestimated. They were not as simple as ordinary deity seats of origin. They were even true king deity seat. Regardless of whether it was the Moon God or the Sun God, once they returned, they would be existences of the God-King level. This was not the main point. In Qin Feng's memory, the Moon God seat of the Gold Era did not fall into the hands of the Silver Moon clan, nor was it taken by the Moon Eclipse Demon clan's experts. After listening to Yu Ji's explanation, Qin Feng had guessed correctly. This matter was indeed related to the Moon Eclipse Demon clan. However, it was not that the two clans wanted to fight and use him as a fighter. It was that many strange things had happened in the Moonless Forest recently. Many members of the Silver Moon clan had disappeared for no reason. Yu Ji suspected that some evil god was causing trouble. Currently, most of the Silver Moon clan's experts were distracted by the reappearance of the Moon Eclipse Demon clan. They were too busy dealing with the Moon Eclipse Demon clan to investigate. Coincidentally, Yu Ji had returned to the clan and found out that Qin Feng had pretended to be her son-in-law. She immediately set her sights on Qin Feng. Evil god. Qin Feng muttered to himself. Dealing with one evil god was not a problem. With his current strength, as long as it was not a peak evil god, killing or capturing it would not be a big problem. Qin Feng was worried about the Queen of Silvermoon. It was too awkward to meet her again. Chapter 865. After a moment of silence, Qin Feng suddenly asked, "How has the Queen been recently?" Yu Ji looked at Qin Feng in surprise, as though wondering why he would suddenly ask about the Queen of Silvermoon. But she still replied, "Mother has been in seclusion recently. She seems to have comprehended something. Even after this happened, she still hasn't come out?" Yu Ji had a trace of deep doubt on her face. Silvermoon liked to refine pills and didn't usually go into seclusion. Moreover, she was still far from breaking through. While thinking, Yu Ji's beautiful eyes stared at Qin Feng. "I wonder if junior brother will take action to deal with this evil god? Since senior sister Yu Ji personally came to invite me, how can I not agree?" Qin Feng grinned. The evil god was a piece of juicy meat. He had just sacrificed the mountain god position and needed a new deity position. This deity position could also be used as a one-time treasure to block disasters. With this deity position, the chances of surviving the third deity's decay would greatly increase. Qin Feng had always been swift and decisive. After giving some instructions, then, he left with Yu Ji. A day later, in the sky above the skeleton battlefield, Qin Feng's figure flashed and appeared with Yu Ji in an overwhelming gray tornado. Swoosh swoosh. Countless violent forces containing Yin energy swept over. The tornadoes in the sky seemed to be connected to the sky, covering the sky and the sun. "What's wrong?" Suddenly exposed to the gray decaying bone dust, she had a puzzled expression. The next moment, her expression suddenly changed. Boom! In the sky, the dark clouds suddenly broke apart, and a giant rock-like hand suddenly grabbed at the two of them. "This is?" Yu Ji's expression changed drastically. She realized that under the giant hand, she couldn't resist at all. With a grab, heaven and earth seemed to be sucked into the giant rock-like hand. "Finally making a move?" Qin Feng sneered. Ever since he returned to Zhuzi Mansion, he sensed that someone was secretly spying on him. This person was very patient and had been following him all the way until he left Zhuzi country and came to the skeleton battlefield. From Zhuzi country to the skeleton battlefield, there were more than dozens of countries. "Hand over the mountain god position, or die." The cold voice turned into a will that attacked the two of them. The malice seemed to be able to freeze the void. Senior. Yuji's face was filled with shock. Her red lips parted slightly as she was about to speak. Qin Feng had already made his move, unleashing the power of a sixth-order great sage without holding back. At this time, Qin Feng controlled 3 top world domains, and he also had the power of the divine prefecture and the power of the 9 nether dragon ancestor in his body. Even if he didn't use the power of world domains, his strength was still comparable to an 8th-step world king. Dealing with a mere 7th-stage Earth Saint was simply too easy. Boom! It was as if endless thunder and fire had broken through the heavens. A similar giant hand suddenly appeared, as if the immemorial divine mountain had suddenly shattered the earthen yellow giant stone hand that had stretched out. In the next moment, the endless void was torn apart. Damn it! A dignified old man in yellow robes appeared. His body was tall and sturdy, and his entire body radiated with the wondrous power of the laws of Earth. At this moment, his face was filled with disbelief and anger. Brat, how dare you attack me? Do you know that I am the earthly rock star king of Xingqian School? You are offending your superior, and you deserve to die. Deserve to die? You are the one who deserves to die if you dare to try and kill me. Qin Feng's eyes were icy cold. His giant palm grabbed the yellow-robed old man, and as the yellow-robed old man screamed, the earth laws that surrounded him were crushed. Stellar Earth Royal Flag. With an angry roar, a bright yellow light erupted from his body, and a small flag appeared. The earth laws that were about to be crushed in his body instantly condensed, like an immortal diamond, protecting him. That is the Stellar Earth Royal Flag. It is a famous medium-grade supreme treasure in the Heavenly Cycle Star Weapon Mystic Records. Yuji's beautiful face shook. The Stellar Earth Royal Flag was a supreme treasure of both Earth and Star attribute. It possessed unparalleled defensive capabilities and could connect to the Earth and stars. Even if an ordinary world king attacked, they might not be able to break through it in a short period of time. Qin Feng, you dare to attack this old man. This old man will definitely not let this matter rest. The old eyes of the earthly rock star king were filled with anger and shock. Qin Feng's strength had far surpassed his imagination. It had to be known that several months ago, Qin Feng wasn't even a saint, but now the aura he emitted was that of a 6th-step great saint. Moreover, it wasn't an ordinary 6th-step great saint. His strength even surpassed that of an 8th-step world king. More than that, there was jealousy and malice. Mountain god position, everything was because of the mountain god position. In the earthly rock star king's eyes, everything was because of the mountain god position that Qin Feng was able to make successive breakthroughs. Only a god position could have such incredible strength. If he could obtain the mountain god position, then he might have broken through to the 8th-step world king realm. You won't let this matter rest? Do you think you will have a future? Qin Feng glanced at the worried Yuji beside him. An ancient existence like the earthly rock star king was tyrannical in strength and had connections that even half the powerhouses couldn't compare with. Once they became enemies, there would be great trouble in the future. Qin Feng coldly sneered. He revolved the power of the northern dragon world within him. A great force supported his body and his aura rose, instantly reaching the peak of the 8th-step world king realm. The earthly rock star king's face twisted with fear. The palm suddenly shrank. Gotcha! Yuji seemed to hear the sound of thunder. In that instant, the stellar earth royal flag that was comparable to a heavenly true artifact suddenly disintegrated. The giant hand squeezed and the earthly rock star king's saint body exploded into a mass of blood. On the side, Yuji's complexion drastically changed. The earthly rock star king had really been killed. He had exploded with a single strike. He had been crushed to death by that giant hand. That was a 7th-step earth saint, a terrifying existence on the level of a highest elder in the sect. When had Qin Feng become so terrifying? Yuji couldn't help but feel her heart violently shake. She looked at the indifferent black-clothed youth beside her, not knowing what to say. Blood fog tumbled. Visible to the naked eye, a saint's soul flashed. This was the earthly rock star king's saint's soul. He angrily looked at his mortal body that had turned into a mass of blood. His 1,000 years of cultivation had been destroyed in a single day. He stared at Qin Feng with a venomous expression and said viciously, "Qin Feng, you dare to slaughter the elders of the sect. You will die a horrible death. Xingqian School will not let you go. I will definitely report to the sect and cut you, little bastard, into pieces and exterminate all 9 generations of your family. Unrepentant, you tried to assassinate me first. I killed you. Even according to the rules of Xingqian School, I have absolute righteousness. Besides, do you think you can run away today?" Qin Feng locked the saint's soul with the law of space and applied the boundless law. Accompanied by an extremely miserable scream, the earthly rock star king's saint's soul suddenly disappeared. But in the next moment, the saint's soul began to recover at a speed visible to the naked eye. Seeing this scene, Qin Feng frowned. "He's not dead yet? Wait a minute, there's another update." Chapter 866. Soon, Qin Feng understood the whole story. It wasn't that the Rock Star King had cultivated a cultivation technique like the 8 Desolation Indestructible Heaven Scroll, but that a part of the 7th stage Earth Sage's Saint Soul had already merged with the laws. By entrusting a part of his Saint Soul to the laws, as long as his foundation wasn't found, it would be very difficult to kill him. Qin Feng had gone through the 3rd heaven's decay, and could also entrust a part of his saint's soul to the laws of space that spanned across the heavens. It was invisible and formless, and it was difficult for any demon god to kill him. However, it wasn't impossible to kill him. There was a limit to the 7th stage Earth Sage's saint's soul and laws. If he was killed a few more times, his saint's soul would be greatly damaged, and he would not be able to maintain this state, and he would be completely destroyed. Then there was the operation of termination-type laws. The termination-type laws had a special power. Even if it was a demon god that had merged with the laws, his true spirit could be completely found and killed in one strike. Qin Feng didn't cultivate any termination-type laws. Therefore, there were 2 paths in front of him. One was to seal the Rock Star King and suppress him. If the Eye of the Sea was filled, even if the Rock Star King didn't die, he would lose a layer of skin. The second path was to kill him a few more times. Qin Feng looked at the Rock Star King. Such an existence would be harmed if he didn't kill him. Naturally, it was better to completely destroy him. Boom! The big hand squeezed again, and the Rock Star King's saint's soul exploded and turned into ashes again. In the next moment, his saint's soul was resurrected on the spot, and his eyes were filled with a terrifying look of fear. Every time he died, it was definitely an unimaginable fear for ordinary people. His saint's soul was no longer as strong as when he was resurrected for the second time, and it was weak. There weren't many 7th stage Earth Sages that had merged with the laws. It was already very good that he could be resurrected twice. The 3rd time was certain death. Qin Feng slammed his palm down, and the Rock Star King's saint's soul couldn't withstand it and exploded. Accompanied by an extremely shrill scream, the saint's soul was torn apart. This time, it completely disappeared. The saint's soul could no longer be formed. Hearing that scream, Yuji couldn't help but shudder inexplicably. She had never thought that Qin Feng would have such a terrifying side. A 7th-level Earth Saint was killed so easily. In the fierce wind, Qin Feng glanced at the place where the Rock Star King had fallen. After confirming that the Rock Star King was completely dead, Qin Feng glanced at the void and finally fixed his gaze on a certain place in the sky. "Come out. Why hide when old acquaintances meet each other?" The corner of Qin Feng's mouth slightly curved. "An old acquaintance? By the side, Yuji could not resist looking over, following Qin Feng's gaze. Could it be that there was still someone hiding in the dark? Since Madame doesn't want to come out, it seems that I will have to personally invite her out. Qin Feng grinned and rubbed his hands together. Boundless water elemental thunderbolts were generated, and the great five elements' true thunder of annihilation, which was powerful enough to split heaven and earth, smashed into a certain spot in the boundless void like tens of thousands of light beams. Rumble! Countless voids were blasted apart. A white, deathly pale sun appeared in the depths of the endless chaotic void. At least a third-level sun god quasi-saint? Yuji's expression changed, but then she calmed down. The person in front of her could kill a seventh-level earth saint without any hesitation, let alone a third-level sun god quasi-saint. But who is this person? Yuji glanced at Qin Feng. Junior brother Qin Feng seems to be very familiar with her? Of course Qin Feng was familiar with her, and he had a deep impression of her. Yuji could not see the true face of the sun god quasi-saint because her cultivation level was too low, but Qin Feng could see it. Madame of Bones. Madame of Bones, one of the 9 kings of the dried bone battlefield. Qin Feng's eyes were filled with a hint of a smile. Madame of Bones' heart was already in a perilous situation, and she was so regretful that her intestines turned green. Sensing the sudden battle fluctuations in her territory, she was immediately alarmed. Relying on an ancient flying true weapon, she mustered up her courage and rushed to the edge of the battle. She hoped to see the truth. Perhaps there were some secrets or even treasures. However, the scene in front of her left her dumbfounded. 7th-level Earth Saint. An existence that seemed to only exist in myths and legends was killed right in front of his eyes. Madame of Bones could not believe her eyes. Qin Feng's body was wrapped in laws, and in Madame of Bones' eyes, he was like the sun in the sky. She did not recognize him for a moment, but when she heard Qin Feng's familiar teasing voice, she vaguely knew his identity. "You are." The beautiful woman in white looked as if she had seen a ghost. She stared at Qin Feng with wide eyes. "I am Qin Feng, Madame's former prisoner. Have you forgotten?" Qin Feng dispersed the laws around him. He was dressed in black, and his long hair was like a waterfall. Speaking of which, Qin Feng should sincerely thank Madame for her hospitality in the past? Qin Feng gritted his teeth. He remembered that in Pink Cave, he had almost been taken by those skeletons to replenish his yin. "So it's young Master Qin Feng." "Greetings, young Master Qin." The beautiful woman in white forced a smile. She regretted coming out and getting involved in this mess. She had met this fiend. "Young Master Qin, haven't you already become a true disciple of Xingqian school? Congratulations!" The beautiful woman smiled. No matter how one looked at it, it seemed like she was forcing a smile. Qin Feng glanced around. He did not know that Madame of Bones was the only one spying on him. There were still many experts who had not left. Sensing Qin Feng's terrifying gaze, the expressions of many experts in the dark changed drastically. They felt that death was coming, and their hands and feet turned cold. Fortunately, these experts felt a little relieved that Qin Feng did not seem to care about them. "How terrifying! Let's go, it's too terrifying. With just a glance, we seem to have died hundreds of times." A group of experts in the dry bone battlefield were horrified. Like rats in a panic, they hurriedly took the opportunity to leave. Several streams of light flew by, covering 1,000 miles in the blink of an eye. Yuji saw clearly that there were even a few infamous kings of the dry bone battlefield. Madame of Bones also saw clearly. Seeing this scene, her heart turned even colder. She knew very well that she had offended Qin Feng greatly back then. Although Qin Feng had calmly escaped in the end, she had not shown any mercy. If she had the chance, Qin Feng would definitely have died. "Madam, on account of the fact that we once fought side by side to kill King Xianyang, I'll give you another choice. Submit to me." Qin Feng was expressionless. With a move of his palm, a boundless nebula appeared in his palm, like a huge world. Boom! The heavens shook for thousands of miles. Seeing this huge domain projection, Madame of Bone's beautiful face revealed a trace of despair. Even if it was just a trace of the power of that huge world, it was still hair-raising and terrifying from the depths of one's soul. It was enough to easily crush a rank 3 quasi-saint young god like her. It just so happens that this group of worlds of mine has just been created. On account of our friendship, I can give you a choice. Become the master of a world or a guardian. A faint voice sounded. Huge world power surged and swept across. The cold wind that had been blowing for thousands of miles in the dry bone battlefield seemed to have completely solidified. A part of this huge force pressed down on Madame of Bones, making her unable to move at all. She had no doubt that if she made any unfavorable moves, she would be completely crushed. While feeling terrified, a trace of unyielding struggle flashed across Madame of Bones' beautiful face, like a flame. Without freedom, she would rather die. Fourth update. There are always students who suspect that the author is a eunuch. Here's an explanation. The author updates a little late every day because of work, but there has never been a break in updates. Brothers who read at Chidien can directly see this through the main page. 4 updates a day, how can this character not be strong? Chapter 867. When Qin Feng first met the Madame of Bones, she was infamous for her ferocity. At that time, Qin Feng was only at the sea reincarnation realm. He had to look up to these existences that dominated the dried bone battlefield. The heartbreak bow and the sorrowful arrow were famous ancient true weapons. In the dried bone town, there were even rumors that she had killed reincarnation supremacy. Of course, this was actually a rumor. The people in the periphery feared the existences in the dried bone battlefield and spread false rumors. But it was undeniable that the Madame of Bones was indeed very powerful. In the past, Qin Feng could not even resist this woman. He could only use all kinds of strange methods to struggle for a chance at survival. But now, the situation was completely reversed. From Qin Feng's current perspective, the Madame of Bones was just SOSO. Even those ancient true weapons, the heartbreak bow and the sorrowful arrow, could be crushed with a single hand. 30 years in the east, 30 years in the west. After the initial shock, the Madame of Bones had an astonishing tenacity. A huge force erupted from her body, as if there were countless bone demons inside. Layers of terrifying resentment and cold yin-chi erupted, as if it was a true 9 nether bone purgatory. 18 layers of the white bone realm? Qin Feng's eyes flickered. This realm had truly advanced to a small realm. It looked abnormally huge, and its power far surpassed that of an ordinary yang god quasi-sage of the 3 realms. With the power of this realm, even if the Madame of Bones encountered an ordinary sage, she could still fight with all her might. Unfortunately, she encountered Qin Feng. A huge altar appeared under the Madame of Bones' feet. Life and death great altar. Qin Feng smiled slightly. His gaze seemed to penetrate the endless void and landed on the 18 layers of the white bone realm. Madam, to be honest, I was the one who imparted this altar technique to you. Qin Feng raised a hand, and a huge hand seemed to penetrate the void and grab the entire white bone realm. The Madame of Bones tried to erupt with the power of her natal realm, but she was pinched by this huge hand and could not move. No matter how she channeled the law of life and death in her body, she could not shake that power. When it slightly collided with the huge hand, her yang god level law of life and death automatically collapsed. Madam, it's useless. Although your law of life and death is mysterious, it's only a law of level 8 true dragon. For a law of this level, let alone touching it, I only need to reveal a trace of my aura, and your law of life and death of level 8 true dragon won't be able to withstand it. Qin Feng shook his head. His huge hand changed and transformed into a wisp of 9 underworlds dragon chi. Amidst Madame of Bones' fear, it suddenly shattered the 18 layers of White Bone's Dharma world, transforming into 9 monstrous heavenly rivers of destruction that rushed into the White Bone's Dharma world. Under the Madam of Bones's gaze, the White Bone's spell world instantly became clear. This Bone Demon Bone Realm was White Bone was Bone's world was Bone Realm was White Bone. White Bone Realm. As the creator, Madam of Bones could only watch as her natal domain was forcibly taken away. It was as if a stream of light had entered a huge group of worlds, being devoured by an extremely huge realm, merging into it. With a wave of his sleeve, a stream of light swept the immobile Madam of Bones into a newly born realm outside the crystal wall system of the Chaos Realm. This realm was born after the Chaos Realm devoured the White Bone Purgatory Realm. Its foundation was very solid. Compared to the countless ordinary realms outside the crystal wall system, this realm's origin was even larger. If it was managed well, it might have a better future. Of course, no matter how well this realm developed, it was still one of the thousands of children of the Chaos Realm. What a powerful natal realm! Although it was just a glimpse, Yuji was secretly shocked. To be able to devour the grotto heavens of other experts and turn them into subordinate realms, this ability was only recorded in the Sex records. Only a realm that formed its own realm had such an ability. I wonder how this monster manages it. It actually has such a terrifying natal realm? Yuji's eyes flickered. In the new realm, the ground was filled with white bones. Death was the main theme of this world. Countless gloomy winds spiraled, and occasionally, a black wind that covered the sky and earth would blow past. Suddenly, some terrifying monsters seemed to have absorbed enough souls. They woke up shakily from the ground. In their eye sockets, spiritual fire burned. Crack! Crack! The skeletons instinctively began to swim in the endless plain of white bones, looking for their companions and targets to devour. Madam of Bones, I confer you the title of Bone Empress in the 18 levels of Purgatory. Guard this death realm, train bone soldiers for me, and wait for my summons. A faint voice swept across the land of white bones with the chilly wind and landed on Madam of Bones, who had her eyes closed in a palace. Qin Feng, Madam of Bones' eyes were filled with anger. Looking at the white bone purgatory that had been changed beyond recognition, she had an indescribable anger and a sense of helplessness. As the king of this new world, she could feel how huge and unbelievable the grotto heaven in Qin Feng's body was. She couldn't resist at all. Even if she wanted to destroy everything, she couldn't do it. Just like how a level 7 earthly saint's soul fused with the endless laws of the unseen world, a part of her saint's soul had fallen into this huge realm since the white bone purgatory was devoured. Even if she committed suicide, Qin Feng could resurrect her. If she wanted to completely get rid of Qin Feng, she would have to fall in this realm, become a demon god, or have a trace of opportunity. Qin Feng, I won't give in to you easily. Just you wait. Let's go. Qin Feng glanced at the beautiful young lady with a complicated expression and scanned the surroundings. His gaze landed on a certain spot on the ground and a smile appeared on his lip. With a flash, he disappeared from the skeleton battlefield with Yuji. Crown Prince, he seems to have noticed our existence? In the depths of the earth, on a white bone throne, several existences with dense deathly qi looked in the direction where Qin Feng had disappeared. Their eyes were filled with fear. Each of these existences with dense deathly qi was comparable to a level 6 great saint-level white bone sovereign. 2 of them were not inferior to the rocky star king that Qin Feng had killed. These were terrifying undead spirits at the level of a death sovereign. On the white bone throne in the center, a skeleton sat cross-legged like an emperor. Countless cold white flames burned on its body, and its body was surrounded by dense domain power. 7 colored flames burned in its eye sockets, giving people the illusion that it was about to open its eyes. It glanced at the many death sovereigns present and smiled. The sect has produced many young talents over the years. Listening to its words, This white bone sovereign was a certain existence in Xingqian school. There's still 3 more updates. The update was supposed to be at 2, but after taking a short nap, 2 hours have passed. Chapter 868. Crown Prince, are we just going to let him go? After all, the Madam of Bones is one of our chess pieces. A tall white Bones Emperor's eyes were filled with rage and violence. He had always regarded the Madam of Bones as his exclusive property. When the time was right, he would pluck her primordial Yin to increase his demonic power. However, he could only watch as the Madam of Bones was taken away. Yin Ling, it's just as you said. He's just a chess piece. Why should the Crown Prince become enemies with a true disciple of a sect for a dispensable chess piece? Another silent king of death shook his head. However, everyone knows that this is the territory of the Death faction. By doing so, he's clearly not giving the Crown Prince any face. The Yin Spirit Emperor's words were filled with coldness and brutality. On the other side, a 7th stage Emperor glanced at the expressionless Yama Crown Prince and said in a deep voice, Yin Spirit Emperor, you're wrong. You should know that the cause and effect of this is the enmity between the Madam of Bones and that true disciple. If she didn't disregard the rules set by the Crown Prince and secretly interfere with the conflict between the factions of Xingqian school, she wouldn't have ended up like this. She only has herself to blame for this. The 7th stage Emperor sneered inwardly. How could they not know the Yama Crown Prince's character? If it wasn't for the fact that he wasn't confident in defeating that true disciple, the Yama Crown Prince wouldn't have chosen to endure. Alright, everyone, there's no need to argue. This time, I can sense that the ancient 9 Serenities world is about to appear. The most important thing now is to assist the Crown Prince in obtaining the origin of the 9 Serenities world. Another short 7th stage Emperor, who looked like an old man, spoke slowly. As soon as he spoke, even the indignant Yin Spirit Emperor shut his mouth. The ancient 9 Serenities world is a legacy left behind by the Death God. If we can obtain the origin of this world and the Death God's position is born, the Crown Prince will have at least a 30% chance of stabilizing the position. Currently, we have to be on guard against the 9 Serenities world, Big Dipper world, Death faction, Purgatory faction, and other great enemies. There are also some hidden ancient powerhouses and evil god. They are all eyeing the origin of the 9 Serenities world. The Yama Crown Prince's expression slowly changed, and a layer of terrifying energy was emitted. There's also the extreme Yin faction. As his indifferent words fell, many Death Emperors instantly. Since ancient times, apart from representing the night, the moon was also a symbol of death. It was not impossible to use the great Yin to control the law of death. Crown Prince, the lunar lineage should not be a concern. Currently, there are only 2 lineages of the lunar lineage. One of them is the Heart Moon Peak, which is mainly the Silver Moon clan. The other is the Moon Eclipse Demon clan. The 7th Order Sovereign called Devour, who was the first to speak, looked at the Yama Crown Prince respectfully. What's more, now that the Moon Demon has appeared, at the mention of the Moon Demon, many of the Lords of Death present couldn't help but let out sharp laughter, as if they were taking pleasure in his misfortune. The Moon Devil is an evil god that was born in the ancient times. This evil god was originally an expert of the Moon bloodline. However, this evil god was ruthless, cruel, and inhuman. He has been an enemy of the Silver Moon bloodline for generations. In the 5 Moons forest, a handsome young man was strolling through the lush forest. He was dressed in black and looked extraordinary. The young girl had a tall and graceful figure, especially the pair of astonishingly straight and long legs under the short skirt. She was as cold and beautiful as the Moon Fairy, and also had a hint of charm that tugged at one's heartstrings. The 2 of them were like an immortal couple. So, you suspect that the Moon Demon has appeared? Qin Feng's words were filled with a hint of hidden meaning. His eyes seemed to be deep in thought. This moon demon was also a famous figure in the future. This time, the position of the moon god didn't fall into the hands of the Silver Moon Clan, nor did it fall into the hands of the Moon Eclipse Demon Clan's experts. It fell into the hands of this moon demon. This moon demon was an unparalleled almighty who had lived for countless eras. In the records, the moon demon had been killed many times, and even sealed many times. However, she had successfully reincarnated every time. Of course, to Qin Feng, the deepest impression was the moon demon's other identity. The second founder of the demonic path, the founder of the moon demon sect, one of the 10 bloodlines of the demonic path, the moon demon ancestor. This was the second person to call himself the demon ancestor after Duan Xiaolu became the myriad demon ancestor. Yes, this moon demon can be said to be a great enemy of the moon bloodline. I don't know why, but this evil god's ability is a natural counter to the moon bloodline. Yu Ji's eyes were filled with an indescribable bitterness. In the past, the Silver Moon Clan had prospered many times, and each time, it was followed by the birth of the moon demon. This was practically a nightmare that the Silver Moon Clan could not get rid of. In the past generations of the Silver Moon Clan, who knew how many outstanding figures had died in the hands of the moon demon. They had even almost been exterminated by the moon demon. If not for this, the Silver Moon Clan would not have joined the Xingqian school. When they were only a few dozen miles away from the moon reflection lake, the two of them suddenly stopped in their tracks. The moonless forest was still as quiet as Qin Feng remembered. However, this silence had a hint of ghostly color, and it was filled with a deathly silence. Darkness, silence. It was like a land of death. Yu Ji's beautiful face gradually turned serious. Qin Feng scanned his surroundings. He could feel the dense malice in the depths of the forest. The corners of his mouth curled up into a faint smile. At this moment, he had retracted the power in his body and looked like an ordinary martial arts overlord. Boom! Heaven and earth shook. As if covering the sky and covering the earth, a ray of black light suddenly grabbed out from the depths of the forest like thousands of tentacles. Like countless black vines, it turned into thousands of giant hands and grabbed towards Qin Feng. Only a small portion of it rushed towards Qin Feng. Most of it was targeting Yu Ji. Not good, junior brother Qin Feng, be careful. It's the moon demon. With a cold roar, countless thin lunar power turned into countless lunar blades. Wherever they passed, countless black vines were shattered by the blade light. Silver light lingered. Every ray of lunar light was like a peerless blade. The young girl was like a lunar goddess. Qin Feng raised his eyebrows. He originally wanted to attack, but when he saw this, he chose to watch from the sidelines. In his eyes, thousands of feet away, in the darkness, there was a dim moon shrouded in darkness. It emitted a terrifying aura that could swallow the world. However, there was also a lunar law contained within. Her aura was abnormally strange. Seeing the countless tentacles formed by the black light being cut off by the extremely sharp Great Een sword light, she smiled coldly. The black gas that was cut off suddenly changed again, turning into a net-like existence that enveloped the two of them. A trace of coldness flashed through Yu Ji's beautiful phoenix eyes. She took light steps forward, and the extremely white light of the moon around her was like a beautiful silver moon, but it also carried a trace of peerless sharpness that could split the world. She pointed with her finger and thousands of blade lights shot out. Wherever they passed, the void was torn apart by the cold light. The black net that enveloped the two suddenly turned into butterflies and shattered. This was a top martial arts divine ability of the Silver Moon Clan called Lunar Blade. This divine art called Tai Een Saber was extremely powerful. Streaks of eerie black light were sliced apart and turned into black gas that dissipated in the air. Yu Ji die. In the darkness, the dark lunar power of the dim moon girl flourished. She was like a terrifying dim moon. Dozens of miles of forest suddenly seemed to be dyed with a layer of Een coldness. In the sky, the clouds seemed to have been cut open. Boundless lunar power was forcefully drawn out, landing on the dim moon girl's head. The lunar starlight bloomed, incomparably bright. Even Qin Feng's saint soul felt a little uncomfortable. This girl is also the reincarnation of the lunar star. Chapter 869. The moonlight that filled the sky was like ice and snow, like frost. The cold moon was in the heart. In the darkness, the power of the lunar star that the woman in black drew down was no less than Yuji, the reincarnation of the lunar star. However, in Qin Feng's view, the strength of the woman in black was not very high. A pinnacle martial arts overlord. A half-step rank 1 almighty. Although the two women were of equal strength and were both lunar stars, in terms of strength, Yuji was still slightly superior, even if the cultivation method that the woman in black cultivated greatly restrained the power of the lunar star. However, in Qin Feng's view, although she had tyrannical strength, her use of martial arts and even comprehension of the lunar law was far inferior to Yuji. After entangling for a moment, Yuji shouted softly. Extreme Een Frost, critical blade. A cold blade light slashed out, as if a sickle was slashed out in an instant, tearing apart the net formed by thousands of black tentacles and suddenly draping over the woman in black. Bam! Bright black light burst out, and a trace of anger flashed across the woman in black's face. She suddenly let out a sharp scream, spitting out a mouthful of blood, and suddenly turned into a black light, rapidly retreating. Yuji couldn't catch up, and a trace of anxiety appeared in her eyes as she looked at Qin Feng. Qin Feng smiled faintly. He raised a hand and pointed with his finger. Thousands of palms away, the figure that was fleeing suddenly froze. Space contraction. The woman in black retreated, and in the blink of an eye, she was in front of her. The woman in black was shocked. She found that under this terrifying power, not to mention resisting, even moving was abnormally difficult. She could only watch as her body was pulled back by the huge force. Boom! Suddenly, Qin Feng's expression changed, and he grabbed Yuji beside him. His figure flashed and instantly disappeared, appearing at the tip of a big tree. With one hand grabbed by Qin Feng, Yuji's face flushed red, and she was about to struggle, but in the next moment, a trace of fear flashed across her beautiful face. On the spot, a power that could freeze thousands of worlds erupted, like a torrent, and everywhere it passed, dozens of miles of forest turned into pitch-black ice sculptures. A beautiful woman in black appeared. She was tall and slender, like a goddess in the darkness. Although her appearance couldn't be seen clearly due to the concealment of her power, her figure, grace, and temperament were enough to make one's heart beat faster. One could imagine that this woman was definitely not ugly. When the black-clothed woman saw the newcomer, her expression changed and a trace of joy appeared in her eyes. "Master!" Trash. Her voice was sweet and gentle, yet it was filled with an oppressive coldness. The black-clothed woman's face and ears were red as she stared at Yuji and even Qin Feng, as though she wanted to devour them. Moon Devil. Qin Feng looked at the woman who came later with a surprised expression. This woman was very strong, and she had the unique power of the ancient evil god. Compared to the 9 Pinnacles mountain god from before, he was ridiculously powerful. Even the 9th-rank Elysian children weren't as terrifying as her. What surprised Qin Feng the most was that this woman also had an aura unique to the lunar star. Obviously, she also had part of the fate of the lunar star. When this woman appeared, Yuji seemed to have met her most terrifying natural enemy, and her hair stood on end. If not for Qin Feng beside her, she would have had the urge to run away. When she heard Qin Feng's words, her beautiful face instantly turned pale. Moon Demon. She was like a nightmare to the Silver Moon tribe. This woman in front of them was the real Moon Demon? The Moon Demon was shrouded in a hazy brilliance, and even Qin Feng couldn't see her appearance clearly. Qin Feng felt that the Moon Demon glanced at him. His eyes were obviously filled with a trace of fear and seriousness. Finally, her gaze landed on Yuji beside him. When that gaze landed, Yuji fell into an endless ice cave. She couldn't help but shiver and move closer to Qin Feng. Sensing Yuji's fear, Qin Feng patted her cold hand and said, "Junior sister, don't worry, I'm here." Hearing Qin Feng's words, the moon demon glanced coldly at Qin Feng and disappeared into the forest with the black-clothed woman behind her. Qin Feng clearly felt that before the moon demon left, she glanced at the two of them. The moon demon obviously wouldn't let it go. 3 lunar star fates, and there's only 1 lunar star lord. I'm afraid this junior sister will be in big trouble in the future. Qin Feng glanced at Yuji beside him. With a pale face, Yuji suddenly asked Qin Feng, "Junior brother, what realm is she in?" After pondering for a moment, Qin Feng said, "9th rank Elysian." After a moment, he added, "And she's a 9th rank Elysian at her peak state? She can go through time at any time and become a reincarnation supremacy with initial control of laws." Yuji's face turned pale again. "Let's go, we'll go to Moon Reflection Lake first." Qin Feng glanced at the surroundings and looked at the forest that was sealed in ice for dozens of miles. This forest's vitality was almost completely wiped out by the power of Lunar Star, and there were still remnants of the power of Lunar Star. Without dozens of years, it would be difficult for life to grow again. Qin Feng's thoughts turned. Such a thing that destroyed the vitality of the earth vein could be said to be very detrimental to cultivation. Circulating the true force of the chaos law, he turned it into a stream of 9 underworlds dragon chi, which then turned into a stream of water vein true force, receiving the lunar moon essence in the sky and slowly being refined in the moonlight. At the same time, the mountain full of moonlight and the Milky Way reflected each other. The moonlight and Milky Way's magic power blended and purified. Along with the void yuan qi and the power of the stars, it once again sprinkled on the frozen forest. The frozen plants and trees on the mountain began to melt and dissolve. Countless amounts of cold air dissipated and intertwined with the moonlight, giving birth to vitality and nourishing the living beings on the earth vein. It swept across dozens of miles and even deeper into the mountain range. Swoosh! Swoosh! Sensing the huge commotion, several streams of light flew over from afar. They were right in front of him. Those were the experts of the Silver Moon clan. The moonlight shone. When the 3 elegant beauties saw this scene, they could not help but be slightly moved. They praised, "What a powerful true force of water vein. Using the essence of heaven and earth without harming anything, it can create oneself and also create all living beings. He has really obtained the true inheritance of the water vein. I wonder which sect this expert is from?" The 3 ladies had a serious look in their eyes. They were proficient in water divine ability, but they did not have the power to create the universe. Moreover, when this Milky Way rushed out, it swept across hundreds of miles. Its power was so vast and mighty that it could be said to be terrifying. Behind them, a lady laughed. 3 supreme elders, this is the son-in-law that I have mentioned to you before, the true disciple of Xingqian school, Qin Feng. This lady was not anyone else. She was the commander of the Silver Moon clan, Yin Ling. She was also an old acquaintance of Qin Feng's. "Oh, I see. That little girl Yuji indeed has good eyesight. She has a discerning eye." Hearing this, the 3 supreme elders looked at the black-robed young man, their expressions becoming more and more friendly. Seeing Yuji, who was beside Qin Feng, everyone hurriedly flew down to greet her. "Greetings to the eldest princess. So it's 7th elder, 5th elder and 4th elder." Yuji heaved a sigh of relief as she lifted the ladies up. Chapter 870. This was Qin Feng's first time using the creation of water veins on such a large scale. He controlled the 9 types of primordial waters, but most of the time, what he experienced was the merciless side of the 9 types of primordial waters, destroying everything in its path, swallowing all life, just like the primordial flood tribulation. He had never experienced that there was such a way to train the water true power. This was almost like cultivating with the living beings, the earth veins, and the yin and yang of heaven and earth. The surging true power of the water veins connected with the moonlight, connected with the earth veins, and flowed within a few hundred miles of the moon reflection lake. It was like countless rivers, merging into the earth veins, and carefully sorting out the heaven and earth veins. The earth veins and water veins calmly dispelled the yin qi in the earth veins, and the cold qi that had accumulated in the earth veins. It was like a stream. It silently created all living beings in the heaven and earth, and promoted the cycle of the earth veins. Visible to the naked eye, countless mountains and forests that were frozen by the yin qi, under the nourishment of the true power of the water veins, were stimulated to the last bit of life, and once again exuded vigorous qi. Many trees even received the creation of water veins, and grew several times bigger. A few ancient trees even gave birth to true spiritual wisdom, and after a few hundred years, perhaps they would have the opportunity to become a demon king. This moment of effort allowed this mountain and forest to have no possibility of withering for a few decades. It could even allow this mountain and forest to become the most basic spiritual land, gathering qi, and become a real spiritual mountain-blessed land. Such profound attainments in the water veins. The 3 elders of the Silver Moon clan couldn't help but gasp in amazement when they saw this. Such a method of creation was close to a miracle. Everyone looked at Qin Feng and their eyes were strange. To put it bluntly, with this person, it was as if they had an endless supply of spiritual mountain-blessed land. This was also what Qin Feng had purposely revealed. With a thought, countless water droplets flew out from the sky, from the forest, and from the earth veins, and entered Qin Feng's body. Qin Feng realized that the primordial waters were not used up like he had imagined, and the energy that they brought back was boundless. Compared to before, it was much richer and purer. With a thought, Qin Feng immediately understood. It turned out that although a lot of the primordial water had been consumed in the process of creation, it was constantly gathering the yuan qi of heaven and earth to temper itself. The moon essence, the earth veins, and even the wood qi of the forest were all absorbed into the pure qi of the water veins to nourish himself, and turned into the power of primordial qi. Just as the 3 elders of the Silver Moon clan had said primordial essence, primordial mo, was blessed land. Creation himself, and the veins of living beings heavens. This was also a method of cultivation. Moreover, it was an excellent method of cultivation. It was much faster than simply meditating. This short period of time was comparable to several years of hard work by others. Of course, and will. Is will true of blood qi? Will of the was? Blood of them were? This son-in-law was truly a pervert. With so many acquired primordial waters, any one of them was extremely rare. Many people could not even buy a single drop even if they sold their entire fortune. However, he had seen most of the acquired true water on his body. There were even connate primordial waters. For example, the Grand Moon primordial water that the Silver Moon tribe was most familiar with. The Grand Moon primordial water, one of the 9 legendary primordial waters, was clear and pure. Its essence was pure. After all, it was formed by the moon essence, and had the virtue of being light and gentle. It was not as heavy as the first origin primordial water, which was also one of the 9 legendary primordial waters. It was also not like the 9 nether primordial water, which was dark, domineering, corrosive, and extremely poisonous. The Grand Moon primordial water could be said to be the purest Grand Moon primordial energy. It was a treasure to the Silver Moon tribe, who specialized in Grand Moon primordial energy. Just now, the grand moon primordial water that Qin Feng manifested and gathered heavenly moon essence was like a Milky Way. If not for their reputation, even the three supreme elders would not have been able to resist asking Qin Feng for some. If it wasn't for luck and coincidence, it was extremely difficult to create such a precious treasure. Even after a few hundred years of hard work, one would only be able to gather 3 to 5 drops. How could one be like Qin Feng and obtain so much in such a short time? Seeing that Qin Feng had kept the river of primordial water, everyone immediately went forward to greet him. After some discussion, perhaps because they had seen the new son-in-law's ability, and because Qin Feng had lowered his status, everyone got along well. Qin Feng also knew the identities of the 3 supreme elders. They were the Silver Moon Tribe's 4th elder, Tian Shunying, 5th elder, Chu Yuefang, and 7th elder, Situ Wu. Among the 3, 7th elder, Situ Wu was the strongest. According to Yu, this supreme elder was a star king born in the Heart Moon Peak, one of the 28 peaks of Xingqian School. He was called the Serene Moon Star King. He was a true 7th-level Earth Saint. As for the other 2, their abilities were much weaker. They were 5th-level Holy Kings. Even so, Qin Feng felt respect for them. In the field of stars, there were many aristocratic families and sections. Those who could have 5th-level Holy Kings were usually imperial families. For example, the 9 Big Empire's ancestors. The Silver Moon Tribe is indeed prosperous. This was only the strength of the Silver Moon Tribe that was exposed to the outside world. Who knew how many more experts they had in the dark? When the group arrived at the Moon Reflection Lake, the Silver Moon Tribe also treated Qin Feng as one of their own. They treated him with extremely high standards. Just like a half-son-in-law, Qin Feng, this son-in-law, was a little embarrassed. He really could not stand such standards. One had to know that the relationship between him and Yu was even more innocent than tofu. Previously, he had pretended to be her husband and cheated her of her good fortune. Now, in front of her, even if Qin Feng's skin was as thick as a city wall, he was also abnormally embarrassed. Yu did not have any reaction. For some reason, she actually acquiesced and did not explain. The atmosphere of the entire banquet could be considered harmonious. At this time, on a sacred mountain in the center of the Moon Reflection Lake, Lunar Peak, this place was illuminated by the lunar essence of Lunar Peak all year round. Whether it was day or cloudy, the moonlight here was as big as a wheel, as if the essence of the moonlight was integrated into this sacred mountain. On the sacred mountain, an ancient and serene palace was exceptionally quiet under the moonlight. In the courtyard, a unique spirit root exuded a refreshing fragrance. The pure white stamen was like a treasure. With a slight sniff, one's saint's soul could not help but be intoxicated by the fragrance. This was laurel, the divine grade spirit root of the lunar faction. This laurel's aura was like the faint moon, as if forming a substantial domain that enveloped the entire sacred mountain. If the blue sky wood ancestor was here, he would definitely know that this was a wood ancestor. Laurel wood ancestor. Under the sacred tree, a beautiful woman in white suddenly opened her eyes. A trace of distress flashed across her limpid eyes. She rubbed her lower abdomen and felt that strange fluctuation. You also felt it. He's here. Feeling the abnormality in her body, the beautiful woman in white's eyes flickered with a trace of bitterness and a trace of motherly radiance. Chapter 871. Evil Creature. Do you know that you are a mistake? The white-robed lady's beautiful face was filled with a trace of distress. She had sat there for a year and used the Tying body refinement technique to silently wear it down. She had thought of countless ways to get rid of this vital essence. She wanted to completely erase this mistake and stain. 4 months ago, she was about to succeed. However, man proposes, God disposes. At the crucial moment, for some reason, this energy increased greatly. It suddenly took shape, and its fate was even more precious. Even with the white-robed lady's current strength, she was unable to move or refine it. She did not know that at that time, Qin Feng had ascended to the ancestral dragon's position. The providence of heaven and earth was at its peak, and his bloodline was strengthened. As a direct descendant of the ancestral dragon, he would naturally receive a portion of the ancestral dragon's legacy and even the blessing of providence. Russell. In her distress, the white-robed lady heard the footsteps beside her, and she immediately regained her dignified and graceful appearance. As if she had sensed a familiar aura, the white-robed lady's beautiful face had a trace of coldness. "Didn't I tell you that I don't want to see you?" She had a head of snow-white hair and a green dress. She was gentle and soft like a clear green lotus. She was a 15-year-old girl. She walked over from the courtyard and looked at the white-robed lady who was sitting cross-legged under the laurel tree. Her eyes were filled with respect, but there was a trace of resentment that disappeared in a flash. "Mother, this is the osmanthus soup that I personally made for you." The jade plate in her hand was filled with the fragrance of the osmanthus. This was plucked from the lunar laurel, which had the strongest spirituality in the mountain. It had extremely strong spirituality and could strengthen the saint's soul. It was also indescribably beneficial to the collection of the lunar essence. This osmanthus flower's spirituality would only be at its strongest when the moon was in the middle of the sky. That was only for a moment. After that, the spirituality and medicinal properties would weaken, just like the yesterday's daylily. This bowl of osmanthus soup would take at least a few months to collect the ingredient. The white-robed lady did not even look at it. "Get out." A trace of coldness flashed in Princess Yuqian's eyes. The next moment she lowered her head, and a trace of pitiful weakness appeared on her face. He bowed respectfully to the lady in white and put down the osmanthus soup in his hand. He glanced at the lady in white and slowly retreated. "Sigh, Miss, Princess Yuqian is your flesh and blood after all. This child is very filial, why do you have to?" The osmanthus flowers drifted down, and one after another, faint silhouettes appeared silently. The moonlight distorted, and a graceful figure appeared on the other side of the courtyard. He seemed to have sensed it long ago. "Jinyun, you don't understand?" The beautiful woman in white shook her head with a hint of bitterness on her beautiful face. "This Ru-Yi is arrogant and condescending, but he is so narrow-minded that he actually colluded with the people of the Demon Temple. How audacious!" Thinking back to what happened that night, if it wasn't for Princess Yuqian's plot, she wouldn't have. The woman in white was furious. If it wasn't for the fact that Princess Yuqian was her own flesh and blood, she would have slapped anyone else to death. Bien Jinyun didn't understand and only shook her head inwardly. As the Queen's guard, she had watched Princess Yuqian grow up, although she admired Princess Yuqian more. Princess Yuqian was much better than Princess Yuqian in terms of talent and hard work. However, she had always been impartial. She had never been biased. It was just that she didn't know what happened that night, or she wouldn't have been able to remain calm. "Miss, the prince consort is here. Don't you plan to come out of seclusion?" Mentioning the prince consort, the Queen of Silver Moon's graceful and elegant face suddenly seemed to recall something, and a hint of redness flashed across her face. In that instant she was as beautiful as a fairy. Even Bien Jinyun, who was her guard, couldn't help but be slightly dazed. Logically speaking, the Queen of Silver Moon should come out when the prince consort was here. Perhaps she was hiding something. The Queen in white shook her head. "I've been studying the laws of the moon in seclusion this time, and I've already gained something. I think I'll soon undergo the fourth chaos tribulation." "The fourth saint tribulation?" Bien Jinyun was surprised. "But miss, didn't you just undergo the third saint tribulation not long ago? Why are you suddenly undergoing the fourth saint tribulation?" Bien Jinyun had a strange expression. She knew very well that the Queen had just broken through to the sun god quasi-saint realm. Logically speaking, the fourth Saint Tribulation should be slowed down, and she should even find a way to restrain it before slowly gathering it. It wasn't the Queen's style to be so impatient. The Queen in White shook her head. In fact, she also didn't understand. Logically speaking, she would need at least 10 more years of cultivation to have the capital to undergo the fourth Saint Tribulation. However, after 4 months, the essence in her body suddenly turned into an embryo. Following that, an extremely powerful force seemed to be transmitted from the embryo. Not only did it cause the moon true force in her body to surge, but it also caused her comprehension of the moon Tao to improve by leaps and bounds. Her moon true force, which was at the 9th level of the true dragon realm, directly broke through the 1st level of the heavenly Tao, the 2nd level of the heavenly Tao, and the 3rd level of the heavenly Tao, advancing to the 4th level of the heavenly Tao. It caused her strength to increase by more than 10 times in a short period of time. A complicated expression appeared on the Queen of Silver Moon's beautiful face. She vaguely knew that it might be because of the fetus in her body, or the child's father. Jinyun, I will be in seclusion from now on. Pass down the order that the elders will temporarily take over the clan's matters and assist you, Eji. During my seclusion, if there's nothing important, don't disturb me. With a flash of white light, the Queen in White disappeared from the courtyard. Looking at the troubled Queen of Silver Moon, Bien Jinyun was a little confused. For the past 2 years, the Queen had always looked a little off, as if she had a lot on her mind. In her impression, the Queen of Silver Moon was always resolute and calm. She had never been like this, where there was even a trace of unconcealable panic. I hope it's nothing. Bien Jinyun was a little worried. With the Queen of Silver Moon's condition, going through the fourth Saint Tribulation wouldn't be a good thing. Damn it, you're obviously a whore, but you still have to pretend to be a saint. How disgusting. Who do you think you are? Trash. Returning to the palace at the waist of the mountain, Princess Yuqian, who was still calm and graceful outside, immediately lost her temper. Her beautiful jade face was filled with viciousness and malevolence, and her eyes were filled with the desire to devour someone. Bitch, do you think that by using some despicable means to erase my memory, I won't remember the illicit affair between you and that man? Princess Yuqian gritted her teeth. The anger in her eyes was like a burning flame, and endless viciousness and coldness were brewing. Bang, bang, bang. Countless tables and chairs were smashed into pieces. Just you wait, you damned bitch. I will let all the clan know your true colors, and that precious sister of mine. You two bitches. Since you don't like me, don't blame me for not caring about our kinship. The position of queen belongs to me. No one can take it away from me. There's more later. Chapter 872. Then what do you want? Of course, I want to expose that B***TCH's true colors and ruin her reputation. Princess Yuqian gritted her teeth. However, she soon came to her senses and realized that something was wrong. A sinister expression appeared on her face as she raised her head to look. In the next moment, her expression changed. A trace of paleness and fear flashed across her face. Master! A strange ancient mirror floated up and the figure of Moon Demon, who had seen Qin Feng's reflection, appeared on the mirror. Yuqian, you're right. She and Yuji must die. Blocking your way is blocking mine. Moon Demon's face was cold. So they deserve to die. Master, you agree with this? Yuqian was overjoyed. The Moon Demon laughed coldly. She had planned for several epochs for the sake of karmic luck. The Moon Eclipse Demon clan had been taken down in the last era. Most of the luck and destiny of the lunar faction had fallen into her hands. She only lacked the luck and destiny of the Silver Moon clan. As long as she took everything from the Silver Moon clan and activated the chess pieces she had planned for many eras, she would be able to ascend to the position of Moon God. But Master, I'm afraid this matter won't be easy to handle. The current Queen of Silvermoon is extremely popular among our people. Even if we expose her true colors, she can still refine the child in her womb. When that time comes, what if she retaliates? Princess Yuqian looked at the moon demon in the ancient mirror and revealed a trace of hesitation. She did not make one thing clear. Even if the Queen of Silvermoon's reputation was ruined, the one who would benefit in the end would not be her but Yuji. Moon Demon said lightly. Then kill them. Princess Yuqian's beautiful face flashed with a strange look. She looked at the mirror. Master, Yuqian doesn't doubt your ability. Although most of the experts from the Silvermoon clan have entered various battlefields or are cultivating in seclusion in the depths of the Star Sect, there are still quite a number of Supreme Elders around. The 4th Elder and the 5th Elder are both 5th-level Holy Kings. Naturally, they can't be compared to you, Master. 7th Elder, Sidujin is a 7th-level Earth Saint. Disciple even knows that there is an 8th-level World King deep within the Lunar Divine Mountain. Of course, an 8th-level World King is not Honorable Master's match, but if the Silvermoon clan also controls the ancient Lunar Divine Realm, then Honorable Master. Princess Yuqian paused. How is it? Moon Demon asked. He sensed the hostility in Moon Demon's tone. Princess Yuqian shuddered and said hurriedly, Master, please don't misunderstand. Disciple is also thinking for Master. How could the Moon Demon not know what Princess Yuqian was thinking? This woman's mind is treacherous and cruel. Who would have thought that the reincarnation of her clone would become so narrow-minded and crazy? Moon Demon was secretly surprised. He felt even more puzzled. She was the extreme Een star from a certain epoch in the ancient era. Just like the current Great Era, she was born with many stars. Originally, she also had the opportunity to attain the extreme Een deity position of the dual extreme Divine King deity position. However, for some reason, 2 lunar star lords appeared in that generation. Not only were the 2 of them of the same star fate, but they were also of the same race. The 2 of them competed all the way, but unfortunately, she was one step behind and was defeated. Under extreme circumstances, she turned against the Moon God and called herself Moon Demon. Later, she encountered a great calamity. Her divine soul split into 9 and could not be perfected for many lifetimes. In this life, she was born early, even before the Great Era began. Her 9 divine souls were merged one by one. That was how she gained the upper hand and obtained this strength. The Princess Yuqian in front of him was the reincarnation of her 9th divine soul. However, he was only slightly surprised. Moon Demon made up his mind. After using this woman, he would completely take her back and merge her into himself. At that time, he would seize the Silver Moon clan's fate and destiny. In addition, his 9 clones would be perfected. It would be enough for him to completely recover his peak cultivation. The position of Moon God would be at his fingertips. I have my own plans for this. You just need to listen to my orders. When the time comes, I guarantee that you will be the Queen of Silver Moon. After a series of instructions, in a forest hundreds of miles away from Moon Reflection Lake, beside a bluestone, a small stream murmured. The cries of apes and eagles could be heard. Ancient trees and wolves could be seen. On the bluestone, a black-clothed woman sitting cross-legged opened her eyes. Her eyes were filled with a hint of darkness, like the eternal moon. This woman was really Moon Demon. She stood up and looked at the stream in front of her. She muttered to herself. She had placed many spies in the Silver Moon clan. Originally, taking down the Silver Moon clan was in the bag. However, this time, Qin Feng was involved. Unexpected problems were arising. Although this was the first time they had met Qin Feng, Moon Demon felt a great sense of fear. As an ancient elite, Moon Demon trusted her intuition very much. Although she was shocked, Moon Demon had to change her plan. It seems that I need a helper to help me stall this person. Moon Demon muttered to herself. Her figure flashed and disappeared into the forest. A day later, she appeared on top of a volcano. Red Flame City. This used to be the territory of the Golden Light Nation, a demon country under the Temple of the Wilderness. However, after the Golden Light Nation was defeated, the Golden Light Butterfly Clan retreated. It was completely occupied by Xingqian School. Red Flame City was originally the territory of the fire demons. It had also become the gathering place of the fire elemental cultivators of Xingqian School. This was a fire elemental mansion. There were continuous volcanoes, and there were even many precious spiritual fires in it. In Red Flame City, the streets were wide. There were countless merchants, martial cultivators, and foreign clans. They were humanoid elites who were taller than ordinary people. Their bodies emitted a fire elemental aura. They were the Red Spirit Clan of the Wilderness. This clan was born to be good at cultivating fire elemental cultivation technique. After driving away some fire demons, this clan took advantage of the situation and joined Xingqian School. In the City Lord Mansion, there was a pure fire elemental aura that soared into the sky. Vaguely, the fire elemental precepts soared into the sky. It was vast and mighty like a pillar of fire. Obviously, there were elites guarding this place. The Moon Demon had no doubt provoked Xingqian School. As an ancient demon, she knew very well how powerful Xingqian School was. Otherwise, with her strength, she would have wiped out the Silver Moon clan long ago. What she was worried about was Xingqian School's reaction. There were many warriors, merchants, and foreign clans on the street. They were all here for the endless resources in the volcano-blessed land behind Red Flame City. In addition to spiritual fires, there were also fire elemental ferocious beasts and all kinds of precious ores produced in the fire vein. Yuji's figure flashed. In the next moment, she suddenly appeared in the deepest part of the volcano. Countless terrifying flames burned on the walls of the volcano. It was so terrifying that even a saint could melt it. However, it could not get close to the Moon Demon. In the center of the volcano, a huge cauldron appeared. It was like a divine cauldron in the fire. Looking at the divine cauldron in front of her, the Moon Demon's eyes revealed a hint of surprise. Sun King, an important guest is here. Are you still pretending to be dead? There's more later. Chapter 873. Moon Reflection Lake. The silvery white power of the moon gathered in the middle of the lake like a silver mirror. Ancient trees formed a forest around it, and most of them were spiritual roots of the grand moon element. Osmanthus trees were the most abundant. There were all sorts of ancient osmanthus trees. Grand Moon Primordial Water, one of the 9 great primordial waters. It was bright and clear, clean and pure. At this point, Qin Feng released the 9 underworlds dragon energy in his body. The Grand Moon dragon energy was like a heavenly river, and it shone together with the rich moonlight in a radius of a few hundred miles. The sky full of moonlight mixed with the changing heavenly river, bringing with it streaks of spiritual energy and the power of the stars. It scattered over 1,000 miles around the moon reflection lake, and the osmanthus trees became even more lush. It was like streams flowing over the mountains and plains, into the earth veins, spiritual veins, and spiritual roots. It cleansed the yin energy and bad luck, absorbed and purified them, and turned them into streaks of vitality and spiritual energy that nourished the spiritual roots, earth veins, and spiritual veins. It was like a stream that nourished everything silently. As the heavenly river transformed, countless guards of the Silver Moon tribe appeared in Qin Feng's mind. If Qin Feng had any ill intentions, he could kill all these guards with just a thought and turn them into nourishment for the heavenly river. Of course, such an unscrupulous cultivation method had its own objections. This was the territory of the Silver Moon tribe. If Qin Feng was an ordinary person, the Silver Moon tribe would have retaliated. Only Qin Feng, the new prince consort, could enjoy such a privilege. Moreover, Qin Feng's cultivation method allowed the heavenly river to sweep over the area, and the surrounding moonlight was harvested thousands of times and turned into pure true energy. Many people benefited from this, and they even used the rich grand moon primordial water to cultivate a few types of Hotian primordial waters, and their powers increased tremendously. Being in the heavenly river, countless pores, blood, and flesh relaxed, as if they were being cleansed. Even the fourth elder Tian Shunnying, the fifth elder Chu Yuefeng, the seventh elder Situ were, and the other two grand elders were overjoyed. These people were happy that they had benefited. Qin Feng was also very happy. The Milky Way's true power was being absorbed by the moon reflection lake for thousands of years. It was being absorbed by him and turned into pure true power, nourishing the water veins in his body and his saint's soul. It was visible to the naked eye that the true force in his body was rising, and the saint's soul was swallowing it. If Qin Feng needed it, he could even combine it with the water origin source law at any time. The rich law of water was almost within reach, and he could connect his saint's soul to it at any time. Qin Feng forcibly resisted this impulse. His main element was the space element, and the water element was secondary. Even if his saint's soul wanted to fuse with a law, it should be the law of space. Otherwise, once he fused with the law of water, he would have to abandon the law of space. The origin energy of the water vein is actually very strong, but it's a pity. However, if I can completely control the space divine position, I might be able to control a second law. Many thoughts flashed through his mind. At this moment, a few auras exuding strong malice appeared in the Milky Way's true power. Through the true power that filled the sky, Qin Feng saw a few figures walking over from the side under the flowering trees. The leader was a beautiful woman in green. She was tall, and as she walked, her black hair fluttered in the wind, filled with a youthful aura. She was like a green lotus. Princess Yuqian. Beside her, a handsome young man in a silver robe with a cold appearance slightly made Qin Feng's eyes move slightly. A special aura that seemed to not belong to heaven and earth appeared on this young man's body. He was an expert from the ancient era. There was a unique aura on his body, and a unique smell that Qin Feng was very familiar with. With a thought, Qin Feng's boundless water veins' true power flowed into his body like 100 rivers flowing into the sea. Feeling the surging origin law true power in his body, Qin Feng's eyes flashed with a glimmer of light. This half a day was comparable to 10 years of cultivation for ordinary people. The accumulation of the 6th-level Great Sage had been completed by another half. Big Brother Ji-Su, this is Princess Yu-Ji's sweetheart that I told you about. He is also a direct disciple of your Xingqian school. He should be your junior, but senior brother Qin Feng's strength is very outstanding. He is now the Vermilion Purple Prefecture's prefecture lord. Qin Feng opened his eyes. At this moment, Princess Yuqian and the young man looked over. Princess Yuqian seemed to be praising him on the surface, but she was actually adding fuel to the fire. The young man named Ji-Su was already unhappy with Qin Feng. Hearing this, he became even more hostile. So you are the Vermilion Purple Prefecture's prefecture lord. The prefecture lord has a high position and authority. Sorry for the disrespect. Ji-Su walked over and said to Qin Feng lightly. Then, he looked at Yu-Ji with a burning gaze. Junior sister Yu-Ji, long time no see. Why didn't you inform me that such a big thing happened to the Silver Moon clan? If it wasn't for junior sister Yuqian's message, I wouldn't have known that the Moon Demon had appeared and that the Silver Moon clan was facing a calamity. His tone seemed to be very familiar with Qin Feng, with a hint of intimacy, as if he was ignoring Qin Feng. Yu-Ji frowned slightly when she heard the affectionate tone. She glanced at Qin Feng beside her. Seeing that there was no change in his expression, she relaxed slightly. Senior brother Ji-Su, I'm merely a lowly evil cultivator. How could I dare to trouble senior brother? Yuqian, you were too reckless this time. Yu-Ji's expression carried a trace of displeasure. At the same time, she quietly distanced herself from Ji-Su. She didn't know if it was a coincidence, but she leaned slightly closer to Qin Feng. The two of them were slightly intimate. Qin Feng glanced at Yuji and was slightly surprised. Seeing this scene, Ji-Su had a smile on his face. Jealousy rose in his heart. Big sister, that's not right. Ji-Su is an ancient expert from the ancient era. He's renowned and powerful. An additional person means an additional portion of strength. Moreover, this is also Big Brother Ji-Su's kind intentions. How can we refuse? Princess Yuqian retorted with a smile. She was afraid that things wouldn't turn chaotic. Ji-Su was a low-profile person. He was an ancient powerhouse from the ancient times of the two emperors of the ancient times. He was a peerless prodigy from the ancient times. His strength was unfathomable. Because his path had come to an end, he could only seal himself and coincidentally appeared in this era. This person was also low profile. He had been cultivating hard in the depths of Xingqian School and only appeared recently. Ever since he saw Yuji once in Xingqian School, he fell in love with Yuji at first sight. He went to Moonless Forest several times. Yuqian glanced at Qin Feng proudly. This time, she must make this guy suffer a big setback. Sister Yuqian is right. How can you not inform me of such important news? I know the Moon Demon and have even met her before. Even the 72 mysterious sects can't control such an evil god. It's not an exaggeration to say that she is ferocious. In one of the ancient eras, she was once the king of evil gods. Even I may not be able to control her. Ji-Su glanced at Qin Feng with a cold smile and shook her head slightly. Birthday is here. I was so busy that I forgot. Happy birthday to the author. There's a fourth update later. Chapter 874. Ji-Su did not openly suppress Qin Feng or target Qin Feng. However, the meaning behind his words was clear. Everyone present was a smart person. If I can't do it, how can you? Yuji glanced at Qin Feng with a strange look in her eyes. If he couldn't do it, who could? That moon demon only retreated when he saw her. If she was alone, she might have already died in the hands of that moon demon. Junior sister Yuji, who exactly is this Ji-Su? Qin Feng was not angry because of this. Instead, he was curious about Ji-Su's identity. This Princess Yuqian clearly had ulterior motives and used this young man called Ji-Su as a tool. She probably wanted to cause discord between the two parties and create an irreconcilable enmity, adding another enemy to him. He is a disciple of Winged Fire Peak, a prodigy born in Xingqian School during the ancient era. His identity is very mysterious and rumored to be very powerful. At that time, his status in Xingqian School was not inferior to the current top 10 true disciples. Ancient Era, Era of Era. The ancient era was divided into many eras. Era of Era. Qin Feng was not unfamiliar with it. Era was the name of two ancient emperors. These two emperors were Deshang peerless existences in the earth elemental laws. Among the many ancient emperors, they were considered two of the more famous ones. These two emperors created the Era Profound sect of the 72 Profound sect. Qin Feng had even fought with the disciples of the Era Profound sect. The 24 Upper River and Lower River swordsmanship could be said to be the sect's supreme inheritance. The dynasty era was an era that was closer to the near ancient era. In this era, luck was not at its peak, and only a few demon gods were born. Obviously, this Ji-Su was born at the wrong time. His deity position was missing, and he could not ascend to the peak, so he could only choose to seal himself. However, sealing oneself was not something that just anyone could do. It required the consumption of massive amounts of divine materials and even supreme treasures. The longer one sealed oneself, the more treasures would be consumed. Since ancient times, there were many experts who didn't die in battle with their enemies. Instead, they died to the blade of time. There were many experts who had died tragically because of self-sealing. As for his exact identity, I'm not too sure. But he once called himself True Monarch Lunar. This person has been in the world for a period of time, and since I encountered him by accident during the All-Star meeting, I've been pestered by him. Yu-ji transmitted her voice, her tone carrying a trace of faint helplessness. She glanced at Qin Feng and spoke in an inexplicable tone. The clan has always hoped that I can be with him. Her voice paused slightly and she glanced at Qin Feng. Seeing Qin Feng's indifferent expression, Yu-ji didn't know why, but she suddenly doubted her own charm. Although she did not deliberately look at her own appearance, she still had some confidence in her heart. Whether it was All Stars College, Xingchen School, or even other sects, she had a huge group of suitors. Among these suitors, there was no lack of top geniuses from famous clans, and even leaders of some large forces. But now, Qin Feng was actually indifferent towards her. She couldn't help but feel unconvinced. Little did Yu-ji know that Qin Feng was already immersed in the astonishment in his heart. Ji-su was a famous person as well. The ancestral master of a famous first-rate sect in the future. Ancestral Master Guanghan. It was recorded in the unofficial history that after Xingchen School was annihilated, this person had once obtained a portion of the legacy and established another Guanghan sect. This Guanghan sect was one of the orthodox sects in the future, and it was on par with the Lunar Devil sect of the 10 branches of the Devil Path for countless eras. It was a first-rate overlord sect. Although this person did not attain the position of moon god during the Golden Era, he settled for the next best thing and became an acquired god of the Lunar Devil sect. The god of extreme frost. A legendary figure. Qin Feng's gaze swept past Ji-su, and his gaze was surprised. Obviously, he'd never imagined that this fellow who was jealous of him would be the famous god of extreme frost in the future. What's with that gaze? Ji-su was bewildered in her heart. Qin Feng's gaze was slightly strange. It didn't carry the rage and hatred she'd imagined, and it carried curiosity instead, as if he'd seen something new. He glanced at her. She didn't seem to be anything special? What's wrong with this Qin Feng? Why does he have such an expression? Princess Yuqian had a smile on her face as she muttered in her heart. According to her calculations, even if Qin Feng wasn't angry after being bullied like this, he should at least express something. However, the two of them would have a dispute. She could only wait for that to happen, then fan the flames and guarantee that the two of them would fight to the death. Compared to Yu-ji, Princess Yuqian understood Ji-su better. This person wasn't as simple as just an ancient expert. There was another layer of secrets in her identity. This layer of secrets involved a lot of things, and even her master, the Lunar Devil, was abnormally fearful. As long as they fought, whether Qin Feng killed Ji-su or Ji-su killed Qin Feng would pay the price in the end. Just as she was about to speak, suddenly, dang dang dang, the faint sound of bells rang out in the center of Moon Reflection Lake like invisible ripples that swept across hundreds of miles. Countless experts of the Silver Moon clan suddenly woke up. Not good, the Moonless Forest is warning us that there's an enemy invasion. On the side, 4th Elder Tian Shunying, 5th Elder Chu Yuefeng, and 7th Elder Situ Wuer's faces sank at the same time. Could it be the Lunar Devil's invasion? Ji-su's face revealed a trace of seriousness. Even he felt a great pressure from an evil god at the level of the Lunar Devil. Once this was said, everyone's heart sank. Their faces were gloomy. Suddenly, Qin Feng's expression changed. He swept his gaze over and noticed a flash of joy on Princess Yuqian's face. After pondering for a moment, Qin Feng's eyes silently formed an idea. Yuji's expression was solemn, and her eyes were filled with a trace of sternness. Her 10 fingers intertwined rapidly, forming a series of hand seals. Qin Feng faintly felt that following her hand seals, the void was resonating, and an invisible power gathered and intertwined. This power is, Qin Feng slightly glanced to the side with a trace of surprise. It's a kingdom. The entire moonless forest is actually a large-scale kingdom on the ground. Jisu's eyes were a little dazed. Qin Feng took a deep breath, and the trace of shock in his eyes could not be concealed. This was truly unexpected. He had once seen someone turn their natal grotto heaven from illusion into reality, turning it into a real city, a nightmare city at the intersection of illusion and reality. However, he did not expect that the Silvermoon clan would actually merge a large-scale kingdom into the earth vein and turn it into a forest. This large-scale kingdom was born from the earth vein and was almost undefended? Wasn't this a little too daring? However, this was not without benefit. Being compatible with the earth vein and using the power of the earth vein to nurture the grotto heaven, this was practically a fortress, a blessed land. Rich and overbearing. Qin Feng could only describe it this way. Open. Following Yu Ji's cold shout, streams of light appeared and a crystal mirror shone. On the mirror, a black hole seemed to have appeared in the sky outside the moonless forest. An endless demonic aura surged into the sky. Countless demonic beasts poured out from the black hole. Among them, the demonic beasts that covered the sky like black clouds made everyone's expression change. Their hands and feet were ice cold. Especially the 7 or 8 auras in the lead, they were like 7 or 8 dark moons. These were all demonic beasts that were 7th level Earth Sage and above. Moon Eclipse Demonic Tribe. Yu Ji's beautiful face was ice cold, filled with a murderous intent. 4th update. Chapter 875. This is the Moon Eclipse Demon Tribe? Qin Feng looked at the countless demon tribe members in the mirror in astonishment. These demons were all good-looking. None of them were crooked. Their ears were pointed, but their eyes were filled with the color of blood. They were wearing leather armor and their figures were slender. The blood moon energy of the moon tribe flowed in their bodies. The Moon Eclipse Demon Tribe was a large tribe in the Wildlands. Although they couldn't be compared to the 12 royal tribes, they were still a top-notch existence. The entire tribe's power wasn't any weaker than the Golden Light tribe of the Golden Light Nation. In the mirror, the 7 to 8 rank 7 demon tribe members were like blood moons that lit up the moonless forest. The leader was an indescribably handsome young man with blood-red hair. He seemed to have sensed something and looked in the direction of the mirror. It was like a mountain of corpses and a sea of blood. In an instant, boundless blood moons covered the moon reflection lake. Blood Moon King. The 4th Elder, 5th Elder, and 7th Elder's eyes flashed with a trace of coldness, as well as a trace of anger. All the experts of the Silvermoon clan had a grave expression on their faces. The Blood Moon King was the king of the Moon Eclipse Demon Tribe. Contrary to the Silvermoon tribe's parliamentary system, the Moon Eclipse Demon Tribe had centralized authority. Since ancient times, only the strongest could become the king of the tribe. Rumble. The blood moons in the sky connected as though there were 2 huge worlds. One was the Moon Tribe and the other was the mysterious Blood River. The Blood River was connected since ancient times. Silvermoon clan, your doomsday has arrived. Hand over the Silvermoon royal family and submit to this king, and this king will spare your lives. Otherwise, this king can blame this king for being ruthless and completely exterminating your clan. The cold voice pierced through the boundless void. It was terrifyingly intimidating. By the moon reflection lake, all the experts of the Silvermoon tribe looked gloomy and angry. Many of the Silvermoon tribe members looked pale. Most of the experts of the Silvermoon tribe weren't in the tribe at this time. The Blood Moon King was infamous. Since ancient times, the Silvermoon tribe members who fell into the hands of the Moon Eclipse Demon Tribe had never had a good ending. Senior sister? Qin Feng looked at Yu Ji. Junior brother Qin Feng, this is a family matter of the Silver Moon clan. It has nothing to do with you. Go and rest for now. I will deal with the Moon Eclipse Demon clan. Yu Ji's expression did not change. Instead, her face revealed a trace of a cold smile. Seeing this, Qin Feng was slightly startled. He glanced at the moonless forest. With such a large-scale domain as a fortress, there was indeed no need for him to be concerned. Well, it has nothing to do with me anyway. But after all, the Silvermoon clan once treated me with great hospitality. If they really can't handle it, I can help them secretly. Various thoughts flashed through his mind. Qin Feng took a step back. On the other side, Ji Su wanted to speak. The seventh elder, Situ Wu said, "Young Master Ji, you should head to the Palace of Sweet Spring to take a rest. This is the Moonless Forest after all. Although the Moon Eclipse Demon Tribe has turned out in full force, the Silvermoon Tribe is no pushover." Ji Su's expression changed when she saw the cold looks on the faces of the Silvermoon clan's experts. She glanced at Qin Feng, who had a calm expression on his face, and immediately nodded. Boom! Yuji's figure gradually flew up. As she made a hand seal, the countless ancient trees in the forest emitted a faint spiritual light. A layer of dense brilliance was emitted from the ground. As expected, the earth veins within 10,000 miles have been mobilized. A large-scale domain has been integrated into the earth veins and spirit veins. It's almost like a moving fortress. The most amazing thing is that the domain is integrated with the earth veins and spirit veins. Once the earth veins are broken, magma will erupt and all living beings within 10,000 miles will be plunged into misery and suffering. I don't think anyone is willing to bear such a great sin. Qin Feng's gaze seemed to pierce through the boundless void. He saw the Blood Moon King's expression change with a trace of fear. Boom! Countless blood flame-like meteors smashed down. Above the moonless forest, it caused the silver light shield to vibrate invisibly, like ripples on the water. However, they were unable to break the protective shield above the moonless forest. It's useless. So what if the Moon Demon Clan has turned out in full force? The Moonless Forest is a large-scale domain created by the ancient Silvermoon King. This domain is integrated with the spirit veins and earth veins under the Moonless Forest. Furthermore, it is protected by an immemorial treasure and a divine-grade spiritual root. It can be said to be as stable as a sacred mountain. Not to mention the Moon Eclipse Demon Clan, even if one of the 12 sovereign tribes of the desolate region comes, they might not be able to do anything to the Silvermoon clan. Fourth Elder Tian Shunying's eyes flashed coldly. Hearing this, Qin Feng smiled inwardly. How could he not know that the fourth elder's words were meant for the few of them to hear? I see. It seems that I have worried too much. Ji Su nodded. Seeing that the Moon Eclipse Demon Clan, who had come with great momentum, could not do anything to the Moonless Forest, Qin Feng felt relieved. However, before he left, when no one was paying attention, he used his thoughts to create a heart demon and secretly infiltrated Princess Yuqian's body. The strange smile on Princess Yuqian's face had always made him suspicious. As the saying went, external enemies were not scary. The strongest fortress was usually breached from within. Just in case, and also to protect himself, Qin Feng had secretly bought many of the elders. He had taken the opportunity to plant heart demons in some of the elders. The Moon Eclipse Demon Clan's actions were very strange. They had not given up. Rumble! Beside the Moon Reflection Lake, in a palace, there was an ancient tree that was so thick that it would take a dozen people to wrap their arms around it. As the night breeze blew, the bright moon in the sky was covered by a layer of blood-red fog. Thunderous sounds could be heard from time to time. It was as if a giant hammer had struck the earth, shattering the earth's veins. Standing at the top of the palace, Qin Feng could see countless Silvermoon clan warriors hurrying to and fro. As night fell, the bright moon hung high in the sky. The moonlight scattered across the moonless forest. The protective shield above the moonless forest became even thicker, like a layer of silver cocoon. It was as stable as Mount Tai. Many Silvermoon clan experts showed a trace of optimism on their faces. Amidst the night breeze, Qin Feng looked at the thick blood clouds in the sky. However, he was not optimistic at all. The Moon Eclipse Demon Clan knew that they could not do anything to the Moonless Forest. Yet, they were still surrounding the Moonless Forest. Clearly, they had something to rely on. From Qin Feng's point of view, a forceful attack would not work. Even if a powerful Kane true weapon could shatter the defenses of the Moonless Forest, it would definitely break the Earth's veins and cause the Earth's veins to explode. Even if it could destroy the Silvermoon clan, such a sin was enough to cause the Moon Eclipse clan to never be able to rise again. Slaughtering living beings would result in curses and resentment. Such curses and resentment were not something that powerful experts would fear. However, exploding the Earth's veins would incur the hatred of an entire realm. If it was light, it would reduce one's luck and providence. If it was heavy, it would result in heavenly punishment. 99 heavenly lightning strikes would destroy the entire clan. Even a demon god-level existence would not be able to withstand the backlash of an entire realm. There must be some kind of trick? Qin Feng recalled Princess Yuqian's strange smile. Seems like they are preparing to use it. Spies. Since ancient times, the sturdiest fortresses were usually breached from the inside. After pondering for a moment, Qin Feng's figure flashed and flew towards Princess Yuqian's location. He still felt that he had to investigate. There's more later. Chapter 876. Qin Feng was not cultivating some powerful escape technique. But at his level, comprehending the laws, any escape technique was a piece of cake for him. Even in a vast domain like the Moonless Forest, even a world lord would not be able to find him if they did not pay attention. He locked onto Princess Yuqian's aura. Silently, Qin Feng's figure appeared in a palace. There was the sound of water dripping and mist. A stream of light appeared in the mist and disappeared in a flash. In the mist, a hazy and beautiful body appeared in front of Qin Feng's eyes. Her beautiful figure, her black hair that reached her buttocks, her curves, the faint red in front of her body, and even the pitch-black underwater, were all in Qin Feng's eyes. She's bathing. Qin Feng frowned and glanced at Princess Yuqian's figure. Although she's a little vicious, her figure is not bad. The naked girl in the water raised her eyebrows and scanned the surroundings of the palace with her beautiful eyes, as if she had sensed something. Who's there? With a shout, a beam of light swept across the entire palace like a peerless blade. It was as if an extremely sharp divine blade had sliced through the void. Crack! Crack! Visible to the naked eye, countless streams of water froze and condensed into frost around the palace. What pure moon star power! My previous suspicions were correct? Qin Feng turned into a water droplet and silently melted the moon's star power. Like a stream of light, he instantly landed on Princess Yuqian's skin and silently merged into her body, fusing with the inner demon. Boom! A crimson thunder sounded in the sky and the blood-red light suddenly lit up the dark moonless forest. Princess Yuqian raised her eyebrows and secretly thought that she might have been too nervous. She immediately leaned back comfortably on the water pillow and bathed in the hot spring full of petals. She carefully rubbed her snow-white skin that was softer than silk. If your heart is black. He transformed into the inner demon and appeared in Princess Yuqian's sea of consciousness. The surroundings were dark. It was filled with dark thoughts that were beyond imagination. Even though Qin Feng was mentally prepared, he was still shocked. With these thoughts in mind, his inner demon body was like a fish in water. He entered the core area of the sea of consciousness almost effortlessly. In the center, a star that looked like a faint moon appeared in front of him. Lunar star? Qin Feng was surprised. From what he knew, only those geniuses who had reincarnated in the constellations would be able to manifest their own star fate transformation. Boom! As if it had sensed the abnormality in its soul realm, the natal star hanging high above its soul realm erupted with a dazzling brilliance, illuminating the surroundings of its soul realm. A power that could freeze heaven and earth swept over. In Ling Hai's sea of consciousness, unless one had absolute awareness, ordinary external evils would not be able to affect the original owner. Unless it was from the outside in. However, Qin Feng was not afraid at all. He allowed the divine light to sweep over his body, and his heart demon body was destroyed. It was as if it had discovered that the foreign species had been destroyed. The lunar star immediately stopped. "What's that?" In the pool, Princess Yuqian frowned as if she had sensed something. She vaguely felt something strange. As a reincarnated in the constellations, she might not be as powerful as those ancient sages, but she was born with an incomparably sensitive intuition. However, upon closer inspection, she did not find anything strange. She simply did not have the mood to continue bathing. She put on a light veil, wrapped her extremely alluring body, and came to the center of the palace. There was an incense burner made of lunar cinnamon, and its fragrance spiraled in spirals. She sat cross-legged on a praying mat and began to meditate. At this moment, she was only wearing a transparent veil. Boundless spring scenery was exposed under the white veil, and it was indescribably moving. She was the princess of the Silver Moon clan, a rare beauty. Although most of her beauty was overshadowed by the first Princess Yuji, she was not bad-looking. If an ordinary man saw such a charming scene, they would probably go crazy. As she cultivated, layers of lunar power fell from the palace and fused with her skin. Her hair seemed to turn silver, and a crescent moon mark appeared between her brows. She was incomparably beautiful. Qin Feng's heart demon body silently appeared again, absorbing some of the dark thoughts in Princess Yuqian's heart. He could not kill them all. Unless Princess Yuqian refined all of her thoughts and could become one with good and evil, there was no way she could completely eliminate him. She is indeed the reincarnation of the lunar star. I didn't expect 2 reincarnations of the lunar star to be born at once. She must be the one who attacked Yuji in front of the Silver Moon clan's base. She hid it so well that even I was almost fooled. He sighed. Sensing the lunar star that was ready to move again, Qin Feng hurriedly changed his heart demon body into Princess Yuqian's thoughts and hid them. What a pity! As someone who has been reincarnated from a constellation and has fused with the stars, it's simply impossible for me to easily examine her memories. Qin Feng was a little vexed. Although the heart demon body was strong and mysterious, there were still many taboos before Deshang. Reincarnated in the constellations were almost all future celestial lords. They were born in harmony with the stars. If one wanted to check their primordial spirit, they would have to break open their natal star. To the current Qin Feng, it was not difficult for him to do this. However, Princess Yuqian would definitely die. Qin Feng wasn't being protective of the fairer sect. Princess Yuqian had plotted against him many times, and he had long wanted to get rid of her. However, doing so would definitely alert the enemy. There was a saying that one could be a thief for 1,000 days, but there was no such thing as guarding against a thief for 1,000 days. Since he was determined to help Yuji, Qin Feng naturally would not act rashly. He stopped in the depths of Princess Yuqian's spirit sea. Circulating his cultivation technique, he continuously absorbed the distracting thoughts from Princess Yuqian's soul and even the lunar star's power to cultivate his heart demon Tao. Since Princess Yuqian was one of the moon demon's people, as long as he paid attention, he would find clues sooner or later. After a few minutes, Princess Yuqian opened her eyes in shock. What's going on? Why did the lunar star's power that I absorbed disappear for no reason? She had a strange expression and was puzzled. She had never encountered such a situation before. Ever since she was chased out by the Queen of Silver Moon and met the Moon Demon by accident and defeated him as her master, she felt that her cultivation speed was more than 10 times faster than before. Why would she encounter such a situation? Not only did her true power not improve, but it also seemed to have regressed. Could it be that I went berserk? Or maybe I just opened up the lunar Dharma world, and it is absorbing the lunar true power to replenish my energy. Princess Yuqian's expression suddenly changed while she was in doubt. Wang. More than 10 meters away, an ancient mirror on the dressing table vibrated. A line of words appeared on the ancient mirror. Do it. Cooperate with the chess pieces to create internal strife and assassinate the Queen of Silver Moon. Help the Blood Moon King to attack from the inside. There's more later. Chapter 877. Qin Feng naturally saw the words on the mirror. Qin Feng was secretly filled with killing intent. As the saying went, a day together as husband and wife meant endless devotion for the rest of your life. Now, he had made up his mind. He could not stay out of this. Master sent a letter? Princess Yuqian stood up and put on a few pieces of clothing. She hurriedly stood up and walked out. At this moment, Qin Feng could feel the surging emotions in her heart. Her killing intent was so strong that it seemed to have materialized. Outside the moonless forest, a huge blood-red black hole seemed to be born in the sky. From the endless blood-red black hole, a steady stream of bee-like monsters flew out. Ordinary monsters would feel their souls throbbing just by looking at the blood-red black hole from afar. They would find it hard to breathe. It was like a blood-red star. This was the moon eclipse demon race's main camp. Blood Moon World. Outside the Blood Moon World, there were several figures that looked like ancient existences from countless dimensions. The Blood Moon King, many moon eclipse experts, the Moon Demon, and an ancient existence were all present. Ruler, the second young lords are all here. As long as the Silver Moon clan has internal strife, we will be the first to rush in and seize the moonless forest. The Blood Moon King respectfully said to the Moon Demon. As the king of a clan, the Blood Moon King looked abnormally humble, like a lowly servant. On the side, many moon eclipse elders were expressionless, their expressions indifferent. The Moon Demon's expression was cold as she glanced at the Blood Moon King. The Blood Moon King was arrogant by nature, and he was an ancient level 8 world king. He was extremely difficult to deal with. If it wasn't for several epochs of planning and some coincidental factors, she might not have been able to completely subdue the moon eclipse demon race. As if he felt the Moon Demon's indifferent gaze, the Blood Moon King's heart twitched. Even though he was filled with hatred, the Blood Moon King didn't show it on his face. Instead, he was unusually respectful. At this moment, in the deepest part of his saint's soul, there was an ancient talisman that had fused into his saint's soul like a vine. It was connected to the moon law. He could sense that as long as there was anything wrong, the Moon Demon could make him beg for death with just a thought. Right now, it wasn't just him. Most of the elders of the moon eclipse race present had this ancient curse called the lunar curse. This was an ancient curse that originated from the moon. Any existence that cultivated the laws of moon would not be able to escape from this terrifying moon curse. The Blood Moon King had also secretly tried to find a way to remove the curse. However, even with the foundation of the Moon Eclipse Demon Clan, he could not find a way to remove the curse. He only knew that this Moon Demon was born in ancient times. It seemed to have devoured the moon star's life for many generations. It possessed a special essence that was not inferior to the demonic god. In order to resolve this essence, one had to either abolish one's own supreme Een laws or find an existence whose essence was superior to this level. However, according to our intelligence, Xingqian School has already received the Silver Moon Clan's request for reinforcements. I believe that it won't be long before not only Xingqian School, but also the Silver Moon Clan's experts outside will quickly return. We don't have much time left. At most, we only have half a day. Once the time is up, our clan will completely fall into a passive position. The Blood Moon King's expression was grave. Even the Blood Moon King was extremely fearful of Xingqian School. Only the masters of large forces like them knew how terrifying such an existence was. The Moon Demon felt the fear in the Blood Moon King's eyes. How could she not be afraid? Xingqian School was one of the ancient sects that had spanned countless eras. Since the Ziwei era, it had been one of the overlords of the land since ancient times. Countless ancient emperors were born and died. Many demonic gods were born. After so many eras, its foundation was not something that ordinary people could imagine. Of course, Xingqian School's performance had always been lukewarm. At first glance, it did not seem like much. However, in reality, the Moon Demon knew how terrifying these ancient sects were. She glanced at the Blood Moon King. With her hands behind her back, she stood above the blood-red black hole as if she was the master of the Blood Moon. Her faint voice entered the ears of many experts of the Blood Moon. Don't worry. Half a day is enough. I have set up the Silver Moon Clan for thousands of years. This time, I found a way to transfer most of the experts away. It's foolproof. Blood Moon King, the mission of your Moon Eclipse clan is to delay the experts of the Silver Moon Clan and the reinforcements from Xingqian School. Buy time for me. Hearing that, many of the Moon Eclipse clan's old antiques relaxed. However, their eyes were still filled with fear. She had set up for thousands of years. This patience and foresight. It was extremely terrifying. No wonder the Moon Eclipse clan fell in her hands. The Blood Moon King shuddered in his heart. On the side, another ancient existence that looked like a boy was sitting cross-legged on a fiery red cauldron that looked like the sun. He glanced at the Moon Demon. Moon Demon, I didn't expect you to be so patient. After so many eras, the Moon Clan was at its peak. However, you devoured and destroyed them one by one. New Moon Royal Clan, Moon God Clan, Moon Golden Toad Clan, Moon Rabbit Clan. Now, most of the Moon Clan's providence has been gathered by you. Flames flickered in the boy's eyes. He looked chubby and adorable. However, the vicissitudes of life that flashed in his eyes were enough to drown one in the vicissitudes of life. Actually, at your level, even if you don't destroy the Silver Moon Clan, I don't think anyone can compete with you for the position of Moon God. Sun King, your foresight is still lacking. Although we are about the same in terms of strength, in terms of providence and comprehension of providence, you are far too lacking. Of course, you are right. Most of the Moon Clan has been destroyed and devoured by me. However, you should know that as my providence and providence increase, the remaining Moon Clan's forces also increase greatly. This is the case for the Silver Moon Clan. In the last era, they suffered a great calamity and were almost completely wiped out. However, even so, they came back from the dead 7 times. They even received an olive branch from Xingqian School and prospered because of that. Even now, there are many experts. There are even a few 9th-level heavenly sons. Even a great master from Xingqian School prophesied that there will be people with great opportunities in this era who have the hope of attaining Tao. The Moon Demon's eyes were extremely cold. This was what she could not tolerate. It seems like you have no choice but to destroy this clan. The boy called Sun King closed his eyes and sighed softly. He felt that it was a pity. In the past, he had many dealings with the ancestors of the Silver Moon Clan. If possible, he was willing to help this clan. Of course, this time, everyone in the Silver Moon Clan will die, especially the Queen of the Silver Moon Clan and the Silver Moon Royal Clan. Only by destroying the Royal Clan can we truly destroy this clan. Also, there is the Moon Osmanthus ancestral spiritual root, which is a quasi-god spiritual root of the moon element. Speaking of the moon osmanthus ancestral spiritual root, a strange look flashed across the moon demon's eyes. There's more later. Chapter 878. Moon Laurel. This was the Silver Moon clan's spirit root. A quasi-god spirit root of the moon faction had unimaginable uses. This was also what the moon demon coveted the most. She had another quasi-god spirit root of the moon faction in her body. Blood Moon Divine Wood. This was another ancestral wood of the moon faction. According to the moon demon's plan, as long as it devoured the moon lunar osmanthus of the Silver Moon royal family, the Blood Moon Divine would most likely be able to replenish all of its providence, fate, and even its origin to become a divine spiritual root. A divine spirit root was equivalent to a true spirit, equivalent to a god-fiend. Seeing the moon demon's expression, the Sun King's expression gradually turned cold. As an old monster that had existed since ancient times, he wasn't a kind person. Since he was going to act, he naturally had to eliminate the source of trouble. In the cold moon palace, Qin Feng was shocked through Princess Yuqian's vision. That moon demon actually placed so many pawns in the Silver Moon royal family? At the bottom of the stairs in the cold moon palace, close to 40 to 50 Silver Moon elites appeared. Qin Feng was familiar with most of these people. Through Yu Ji, he had met a few of them before. Among them, 3 of the Silver Moon clan's 9 great commanders were here. Among the Grand Elders, 4th Elder Tian Shunying and 5th Elder Chu Yuefeng were among them. There were also some middle and lower elite. Most of them held important positions in the Silver Moon royal family and held important positions. It was easy to imagine the impact of the sudden rebellion of so many Silver Moon experts. Elder Tian, Elder Chu, I didn't expect you to be master's people as well. Princess Yuqian was surprised. 4th Elder Tian Shunying and 5th Elder Chu Yuefeng looked at each other. Their eyes flickered with a layer of blood-red silver light visible to the naked eye. Second Princess, aren't we the same? We're all on the same boat. Second Princess, stop talking nonsense. If you delay the ruler's important matters, neither of us can afford to be punished. 4th Elder Tian Shunying went straight to the point, her tone cold. Obviously, she didn't think much of the princess. Princess Yuqian raised her brows, inwardly furious. However, he also knew the severity of the matter. Now was not the time to be calculative. Since that's the case, then everyone will act according to Master's orders. Leave the heavenly sacred mountain to me and the 2 elders. As for my eldest sister, Yu Ji, I'll leave it to Zhang Lanying, Lian Jinfeng, and Ji Chenyu. You must hold her back. It's best if you can find a way to seal her. The rest of you will lead your men to wreak havoc everywhere, create chaos, and create opportunities for reinforcements outside. As long as we let in the Moon Eclipse Demon Clan experts from outside, the situation will change. Huge heavenly stars shot down from the sky, materializing into solid starlight that filled this realm. Sensing carefully, Qin Feng sensed that this realm was somewhat familiar. The rich power of the stars also carried a vigorous vitality, filled with a primeval wood qi. The Wood Ancestor, this is the Wood Ancestor's spirit realm? Qin Feng was secretly surprised. In the Golden Light Nation, he had encountered such an encounter once. The spirit domain power that the 2 wood progenitors exuded was the same. They also possessed the primeval vitality that only the wood progenitors possessed, the ancient wood energy. This is going to be interesting. Qin Feng laughed inwardly. With the Wood Ancestor's protection, he probably would not need to do anything this time. The 3 of them flew along the way. A moment later, they arrived in front of a palace that resembled a moon palace. This palace was built on a stone cliff. The heavenly moonlight shone down from the sky, faintly illuminating an ancient laurel tree, emitting a silver-white brilliance. In this silver-white brilliance, just a faint whiff of it seemed to be able to calm one's heart and prevent all demons from being born. Even an inner demon like Qin Feng could not help but feel his power greatly reduced when he sensed this divine light. It was as if there was nowhere to hide. Fortunately, Princess Yuqian's negative emotions were overwhelming, and her inner demon was at its peak, so he was not exposed. Looking at the ancient laurel tree with slight greed, the three of them landed in front of the palace. In front of the palace, a woman in green opened her eyes and looked at the three of them, frowning. Second Princess, Tian Shunying, Chu Yuefeng, why are you here? Did something happen? The three of them were very familiar with this woman in green. She was one of the personal guards of the Queen of Silver Moon, Bienlvian. Princess Yuqian immediately revealed an anxious expression and said in a panic, Bienlvian, quickly inform the Queen Mother to come out of seclusion. The three commanders have rebelled, and Big Sister has been severely injured by them. Her life is in danger. If the Queen Mother does not come out soon, Moonless Forest will not be able to be defended. Chapter 879. What? The first princess was injured? How is that possible? Bienlvian exclaimed. Bienlvian, stop talking nonsense. Zhang Lanying, Lian Jinfeng, and Ji Qinyu have rebelled. The seventh elder is trying his best to control the situation. We should quickly ask the Empress to come out and take charge. Princess Yuqian was filled with worry, but in fact, her heart was filled with murderous intent. She was observing Bienlvian's expression. Once Bienlvian's expression changed, she would definitely kill her. As the Queen of Silver Moon's guard, Bienlvian's strength was not weak. She was a 5th-level Holy King. Such an existence, no matter where it was, would be an overlord. Bienlvian had obviously fallen for the trap. She did not suspect Princess Yuqian and the other two. Yuqian and the other two secretly heaved a sigh of relief. Creak. The palace door was opened by Bienlvian. Please wait for a moment. I will ask the Empress to come out of seclusion. We won't trouble you, Guard Bien. The palace door was opened by Bienlvian using a secret technique. Fourth Elder Tian Shunying's eyes flashed with a bloody light. She suddenly revealed a sinister smile. She understood instantly. A blood-red talisman appeared in her hand. Wrapped in a bloody light, it suddenly blasted toward the defenseless Bienlvian's back. The talisman lined up and suddenly disappeared into Bienlvian's body. Tian Shunying? What are you doing? Bienlvian suddenly reacted. What did you do to me? She shouted loudly. She found that she couldn't move at all. The blood-red talisman merged into her body and turned into a beam of pure blood-red light. It devoured more than half of her essence blood and saint's soul in an instant and turned into a strange blood-red power. It was like a bloody moon. Her eyes were filled with fear. She was only one step away from her saint's soul being completely devoured. It seemed to have turned into a bloody moon. A strange bloody light flashed in her eyes. She regained her composure. Glancing at Yuqian and the other two, she nodded. She opened the door and let the three of them in. Then, she walked toward the Empress's place of seclusion. This technique seems to be a technique from the Blood River? Qin Feng clearly felt that the power of the bloody light was unusually familiar. It was similar to the Azura blood force he had cultivated. His blood river force could also erode flesh and saint souls to achieve this kind of control. Moreover, the Azura blood power in his body was even purer. This moon demon seems to have comprehended a portion of the blood river law. Or they might as well rely on the blood river law. Qin Feng only knew a little about the rules. Laws were the domain of fiend gods. Saints comprehended the laws, while god fiends established and promoted the laws. for example, the martial Tao and the shaman Tao. The Buddhist Tao laws of the past also had the potential to become nomological laws. However, they were collected and scattered by others, causing the laws to split and unable to change qualitatively to become nomological laws. Every law represented a supreme being of the supreme Tao. The law of the blood river originated from the blood river. It was rumored that the blood river was the territory of an ancient existence. The Asuras, demons, and many other monsters in the blood river were the children of the blood river promoted by the law of the blood river. Anyone who comprehended the power of the blood river, the power of Asura, or the pure power of blood was a generalization of the blood river law. If someone proved their Tao as a fiend god and became a fiend god under the law of the blood river, then the law of the blood river would increase by 1 point. If the law grew to a certain extent, it would become a god system, and the ruler of the law would be a main god-level existence. Of course, Qin Feng only guessed this from some unofficial history. This was the spirit domain of the fiend gods. Qin Feng did not have the ability to come into contact with this realm for the time being. However, Qin Feng had some doubts that the moon demon might have already joined the blood river. To be able to live for many generations and not reincarnate so many times, it was obviously not an ability that an ordinary fiend god had. Perhaps only the blood river had such a heaven-defying ability. If she joined the law of the blood river, then Qin Feng's mind quivered. This could be the scheme of some supreme being in the blood river. If he ruined the great plan of that being, Qin Feng's eyes were solemn. Even with his current cultivation, he was still an ant in front of those fiend god-level wills. After everything went smoothly for a long time, Qin Feng remembered that in the later stage of the Golden Era, there would be all kinds of ancient beings emerging one after another. Those ancient existences also hoped to borrow the power of these rare epochs to become the legendary sovereigns. However, this is only a guess. With the ancient beings in the blood river, they might not be able to interfere without restraint. The spirit sea realm is incomparably powerful. Even fiend god-level existences cannot interfere directly. At most, they could set up a trap in the dark, the heart demon pondered. Bienlvian, who was corroded by the blood river, brought Princess Yuqian and the rest to the inner court. Bienlvian, who was corroded by the blood river, had already become an existence like the blood river's puppet to a certain extent. Her flesh and even her saint's soul had turned into a wisp of flickering blood light. The reason why she maintained her original appearance was because of the disguise of the blood light. Under the divine tree, another guard, Bien Jinyun, stood up. She frowned and looked at Bienlvian and scolded. "Second sister, how can you be so ignorant? When the queen is in seclusion, how can you casually beat people into the moon palace?" "Do you know where this place is?" "Eldest sister, this is an emergency. The moonless forest is rebelling. Zhang Lanying, Lian Jinfeng, and Ji Qinyu, the 3 great commanders, injured the first princess and colluded with the moon eclipse demon clan. Now, the moonless forest is in danger. The most important thing now is to ask the queen to take charge of the situation." As she spoke, she approached the defenseless Bien Jinyun. A wisp of blood light suddenly flashed in her eyes, and she turned into a beam of blood light and pounced on Bien Jinyun. She suddenly entered Bien Jinyun's body. The blood light turned, and Bien Jinyun turned into an empty shell. Even her flesh and saint's soul were devoured by the blood light and turned into nourishment. As sisters, the two of them had protected each other for thousands of years. They were almost inseparable. Who would have thought that the other party would suddenly launch a sneak attack? Suddenly, Bien Jinyun turned into a pool of blood. However, before she died, there was still a trace of disbelief on her face. The blood light turned, and Bienlvian's figure suddenly appeared. Countless dense blood light appeared on her body, as if it had dyed the void blood red. It was obvious that her strength had increased greatly. Princess Yuqian, Tian Shunying, and Chu Yuefang looked at each other and were secretly shocked. Although they had also refined the power of the blood moon, they did not have such a remarkable ability. No wonder my master was so confident. It turns out that the existence transformed by the blood sea divine talisman can come. Princess Yuqian was surprised. It's just an illusory power. Qin Feng looked at the scene coldly. This body of blood light had unparalleled remarkable abilities and tyrannical strength. It could also devour flesh and saints' souls to increase its strength. However, it definitely could not pass the tribulation. Once it broke through, it would most likely die from the heaven's decay. 5. Second princess, please go and wake the queen up. I can't wait to devour her flesh and blood. There's more later. Thanks to Brother Wan Fu for the tip. Another hall master is born. His state of mind was so agitated that he was almost exposed to the natal star and was injured by the lunar star. Queen Mother! Queen! Princess Yuqian, Bienlvian, 4th Elder Tian Shunying, and 5th Elder Chu Yuefang hurriedly bowed. But in reality, he was pleasantly surprised. The Queen of Silver Moon's beautiful face was filled with coldness. She glanced at the four people, her willowy eyebrows like cold swords. I already know about this. The Moon Eclipse Demon Clan invaded and the three great commanders rebelled. I didn't expect them to be so bold as to collude with the Moon Eclipse Demon Clan. The Queen of Silvermoon's brows were filled with anger and confusion. The 9 great commanders were all experts who were absolutely loyal to the Silver Moon Clan. Why would they rebel for no reason and collude with the Moon Eclipse Demon Clan? Could they have been secretly controlled by some special ability? The Queen of Silvermoon had some guesses, but she still decided to do it herself. She didn't notice that Bienlvian was slowly approaching. Suddenly, she turned into a bloody light and charged at the Queen of Silvermoon. Oh no! Qin Feng was shocked. He recovered from his surprise and was about to make a move. But at that moment, someone was faster than him. A divine light that could freeze heaven and earth was suddenly born in the courtyard. Is that the lunar divine wood? Oh no, it's the lunar laurel. Damn it. Everyone, attack at the same time. Princess Yuqian, Tian Shunying, and Chu Yuefang attacked almost at the same time. 3 rays of blood moon law slashed at the defenseless Queen of Silvermoon like bloody blades that could split heaven and earth. The Queen of Silvermoon was shocked. Her eyes flashed with disbelief, anger, and confusion. Light as a feather, a beam of divine light swept over like a sword. Everywhere it passed, the wind froze and the ground froze. It was as if the ground had been frozen. The blood light that was about to pounce towards the queen was suddenly frozen. Following that, the 3 blood blades formed from the blood moon law, as well as Princess Yuqian, Tian Shunying, and Chu Yuefang, were all frozen. Boom! It was as if several huge blocks of transparent ice had suddenly fallen to the ground, causing a loud rumble. Queen, you are too careless. I have already told you that as a ruler, you can't be soft-hearted. Yuqian looks beautiful and intelligent, but she is vicious and merciless. She is as venomous as a scorpion. You have indulged her too many times. Sooner or later, something big will happen. A faint voice came from the lunar divine tree. It carried a chill that could freeze heaven and earth. It was so cold that there wasn't a trace of warmth. The Queen of Silver Moon's beautiful face was gloomy. She raised her head and saw a layer of white light emerge from the Tying divine wood. A beautiful woman in white clothes walked out of the laurel. The lunar primordial spirit. Although Princess Yuqian was frozen, Qin Feng's heart demon body could still operate. Senior Chang Shi? The Queen of Silvermoon seemed to be very familiar with the lunar primordial spirit. She turned around and looked at Princess Yuqian with her ugly eyes. Blood was thicker than water. She never expected Princess Yuqian to bring people to plot against her. There was even Bienlvian, her personal maid, and the two grand elders, Tian Shunying and Chu Yuefeng. Senior Chang Shi, what is going on? The Queen of Silvermoon still couldn't believe that these familiar faces would plot against her. Especially that terrifying blood-red light. After pondering for a moment, the lunar primordial spirit, called Chang Shi, said, "That might be an old friend of mine. Queen, now is not the time to dwell on this matter. You should think of a way to eliminate the internal strife in Moonless Forest. Otherwise, the Silvermoon clan will be wiped out soon." The Queen of Silvermoon's eyes turned cold. Through the source of Moonless Forest, the scene in Moonless Forest naturally couldn't be hidden from her. With the rebellion of the three great commanders and a portion of the powerhouses, the entire Moonless Forest had begun to fester. If it wasn't stopped in time, even if the Silvermoon clan could survive this calamity, their vitality would be greatly damaged. Boom! At this moment, the frozen bloody light suddenly exploded. The two women looked over and saw the bloody light suddenly appear in the void and transform into a human form. Bienlvian's blood-red eyes looked at the Queen of Silvermoon with extreme evil. Her aura began to soar, and a dense blood-red light appeared around her like a blazing blood moon. Her aura climbed steadily. 5th level Peak Holy King, 6th level Great Sage, 7th level Earth Sage, 8th level World King. In the blink of an eye, she reached the 8th level World King realm and turned into a river of blood that rushed towards the Queen of Silvermoon. Not good, the will of the Blood Moon Ancestor has descended. The Blood Moon Ancestor was the Blood Moon Divine Tree's primordial spirit. The two had fought for countless epochs, and Chang Shi was very familiar with the Blood Moon Ancestor's aura. Chang Shi sucked in a breath of cold air. The Blood Moon Ancestor's primordial spirit true body had actually descended and personally launched a sneak attack. With a roar, she stood in front of the Queen of Silvermoon. "Jeej, Chang Shi, this time you won't be able to escape. Not only will you die, but the entire Silvermoon clan will be destroyed." With a cold and cruel smile, the grand bloody light rushed down, and in the next moment, Chang Shi was submerged in the river of blood. Wait a moment, there's more. Just like her, it was also a top-notch moon elemental spirit root. After devouring this origin source, it would only be a matter of time before she advanced to a divine spiritual root. A divine-grade spiritual root was equivalent to a celestial demon. Boundless lunar cold light swept out and suddenly pulled the two halves of the blood moon into the huge lunar laurel divine tree, causing the silvery-white spiritual root's leaves to carry a trace of blood mist. Silver and blood colors intertwined as if they were nurturing the most profound mysteries. At this moment, it was like a living, legendary lunar cultivation method. Any martial Dao expert would be able to gain great benefits from watching this. Congratulations, Senior Chang Shi. I didn't think that the Moon Demon would actually give you such a great benefit. The Queen of Silver Moon had already recovered from the shocking change. She was also happy for the lunar primordial spirit's opportunity. If the Silver Moon clan could have another divine-grade spiritual root to stabilize their fate, their day of prosperity would be just around the corner. Queen, don't be happy too early. I have followed the Moon God since ancient times, and I know the Moon Demon very well. She is extremely cunning, vicious, and shrewd. She is very clear that the Blood Moon is definitely not my opponent. This move is definitely not that simple. The Great Moon Original Spirit's face was not as optimistic as expected. You are saying that devouring the Blood Moon Ancestor was part of her plan? The Queen of Silver Moon's face changed. When Qin Feng heard that, he was also moved. Bang! In the next moment, a piece of ice beside him suddenly shattered. He You are indeed Changshi. You have followed my sister for so long, and only you know me the best. However, it is already too late. A strange chuckle seemed to come from all directions. It was the fourth elder Tian Shunying. At this moment, she slowly broke open the ice. She was dressed in black, and her originally delicate face was suddenly filled with a seductive force that seemed to come from the deepest part of the darkness. Streaks of blood-red light rose from her body. Like the deepest and darkest moon, an extremely powerful aura spread out. The entire Tai Yin peak seemed to have solidified, as if it was frozen. Moon Demon. The great moon original spirit was like a beautiful white moon, and the power of a peak level 9 sage son of heaven exploded from her body, helping the Queen of Silver Moon block the pressure of the aura. The Queen of Silver Moon's face was pale. Under the immense pressure, she was almost unable to resist. Changshi, long time no see. The Moon Demon looked indifferently at the original spirit in white, who was like the lunar goddess. Moon Demon, as long as I am here, you can forget about harming the Queen. Changshi's expression was cold as she stared at the Moon Demon. The Moon Demon laughed. This is not up to you. Furthermore, can you still stop me now? At this moment, a streak of blood-red light burst out from the great moon original spirit's body, causing her aura to become unstable and fluctuate violently. The great moon original spirit's expression changed abruptly, but it recovered in the next moment. The blood moon original spirit is devouring me. Qin Feng saw it clearly, and a strange look flashed in his eyes. Obviously, the blood moon ancestor was sold out by his own master. He was treated as an abandoned pawn. The great moon original spirit swallowed the blood moon ancestor and had the potential to advance to a god-level spirit root. However, this required time to refine and suppress the remnant will of the blood moon ancestor. Qin Feng had to admit that he admired the Moon Demon. This evil god was ruthless, sacrificing a quasi-god-level spirit root wood ancestor. Such boldness! Even Qin Feng could not help but sigh from the bottom of his heart. A quasi-god-level spirit root wood ancestor was sacrificed just like that. One had to know that this kind of spirit root was a treasure that could suppress grotto heavens. The value of a quasi-god-level spirit root was not lower than some third-rate primordial treasures. It was not weaker than the primordial origin embryo that Qin Feng saw. If it were an ordinary person, they would probably be in so much pain that they could not speak. So generous! For the first time, the great moon original spirit's cold eyes had a trace of other emotions. It was filled with a trace of unwillingness and admiration. Actually, she also knew that the blood moon ancestor might be a bait. However, she really could not help it. The blood moon ancestor was an opportunity for her. This was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. After devouring him, she would advance to a god-level spirit root. She had waited for this opportunity for countless eras. She had enough of the feeling of waiting. Although she knew that it might be a bait, she had to swallow it. What if it was not? D*MN, this chapter was lost. I spent an hour to recreate it. There is another chapter later. Chapter 882. Just as you said, you have to give up something to gain something. Moon Demon's eyes were filled with a faint chill as she stared at Queen Silvermoon. After killing the Queen, you'll still be mine. Moon Demon's eyes flashed with a sneer. Exchanging a quasi-god grade spirit root for a god grade spirit root, such a deal was a sure win. But thinking of the blood moon ancestor who had followed her for hundreds of eras, to be honest, she was a bit reluctant. After all, the blood moon ancestor was still loyal to her. But that was it. Compared to the deity position, what was this loyalty? Moon Demon shook her head, shaking off some of the sadness in her heart. Her eyes fell on the lunar origin spirit. Changshi leave. You have to suppress the power of the blood moon's origin. You have less than 1/10 of your power left. You are no match for me." The lunar origin spirit frowned, her expression a bit ugly. Indeed, after devouring the power of the blood moon, there was a possibility of advancing to a god-grade spirit root. But the blood moon ancestor was not an ordinary person. In a short time, it was impossible to completely devour and turn it into her own power. At this time, Queen Silvermoon's expression was very strange. Her expression did not look like she was being controlled by others. Her face that was originally pale due to fear turned into a faint smile. "Senior Changshi, you should retreat. She's right, you're not her match now. What you should do now is immediately go into seclusion to refine the blood moon ancestor's power and turn it into your own accumulation to prepare for advancing to a god-grade spirit root in the future." The Queen of Silvermoon had a smile on her face. Her beautiful face was filled with a kind of dazzling confidence and calmness. But you, the lunar origin spirit, hesitated. "Little girl, it seems like you're already prepared." Moon Demon looked at the Queen from head to toe, as if this was the first time he was looking at her. What she saw from Queen Silvermoon was not fear, but cowardice. It was rumored that this generation's Queen Silvermoon was addicted to alchemy and refining medicine. If it wasn't for her good luck, the position of Queen Silvermoon would not have fallen into her hands. Moon Demon had always thought that this queen did not do proper work, but now it seemed that there was a huge difference. She glanced at Moon Platform Palace. At this time, within Moon Terrace Palace, 4 terrifying auras faintly emanated outwards, each one no weaker than an 8th step world king. With a flash of light, under the gazes of Moon Demon and Qin Feng, 4 ancient world kings with cold expressions appeared at the bottom of the stairs. In the blink of an eye, they arrived at Silvermoon's side. Together with the lunar primordial spirit, the 5 auras vaguely locked onto the Moon Demon. 4 scions of Taiyin? Seeing the appearances of these 4 ancient world kings, Moon Demon's eyes darkened. Chapter 883. You're still not experienced enough. You want to deal with me with just the 4 pieces of trash? That's far from enough. Her voice was like a storm, and an indescribable aura suddenly surged. This aura broke through the limit of a 9th-level sage sun in the blink of an eye. An extremely dangerous aura suddenly appeared. So powerful! Even though he was in Princess Yuqian's heart, Qin Feng still felt a terrifying pressure. Bang bang bang! Lightning that seemed to destroy the world appeared. Boom! The 4 scions of Taiyin, Tang Yuanling, and the other 4 were shocked. A terrifying lightning suddenly exploded in front of them. What was even more frightening was that the layers of laws and even the realms within their bodies were completely destroyed by this bolt of lightning. Poochie! The 5 figures retreated abruptly. Countless pieces of flesh and blood were torn apart, falling onto the Moon Platform Palace like ragged sack. A streak of incomparably dark lightning struck the Moon Platform Palace along with the 5 figures. Countless restrictive spells and formations were disturbed. Even though the restrictive spells were powerful enough to withstand the attacks of supreme martial artists, they showed signs of collapsing. I didn't expect your strength to reach such a level after an era. Among the 5, Tang Yuanling's body was faintly discernible, and she could no longer hold on. She glanced at Queen Silvermoon. Your Majesty, I can't help you for now. You have to be careful. Silently, she turned into a stream of light and entered the body of the Tree of God. Thunder of laws. Cough cough. I didn't expect you to cultivate the law of Taiyin to such a level. Among Gu Haozi, Gu Hongzi, Gu Qingzi, and Gu Lingzi, Gu Hongzi's injuries were the lightest. However, after being struck by the divine thunder of Taiyin, His body was faintly cracking, and an almost indelible black hole appeared at his waist. The most terrifying thing was that the four's boundaries were severely damaged by this attack, and they were on the verge of dying. Divine thunder of breaking! Qin Feng exclaimed. World-piercing divine lightning. This was a divine lightning that could only be possessed by some powerhouses who had comprehended their own laws to a certain extent. It could be said to be the symbol of Deshang. This was also the so-called law of thunder. This kind of divine lightning was born with the power of destruction. Just a slight vibration could easily shatter a realm. Even if it was a large realm of its own, in the face of such divine lightning, it would be very easy to shatter. Thus, it was named the world-piercing thunder. This kind of attack was not inferior to any of the supreme divine abilities on the list of divine abilities. If Qin Feng could Deshang the water law and Deshang the space law, he would be able to produce a corresponding law divine thunder. Seeing this, the Queen of Silvermoon's calm expression froze. For elders! The Queen of Silver Moon's eyes flashed with a hint of sadness. She had indeed miscalculated something. No matter how much he calculated, the Moon Demon was actually so ridiculously strong. 5 world kings had been defeated with a single strike. Covering his wounds, Gu Haozi, Gu Qingzi, Gu Lingzi, and Gu Hongzi stood up one after another. The 4 of them looked at each other with coldness in their eyes. The leader, Gu Hongzi, shook his head. Your Majesty, please don't take it to heart. The 4 of us have been famous for a long time. Even if the Moon Demon is an ancient evil god, he may not be able to easily defeat us. Hearing this, the Moon Demon sneered. Final struggle. In the depths of one of her hands, there seemed to be endless darkness growing in the palm of her hand. Terrifying lightning vibrated, and the Wood Ancestor's spiritual domain seemed to be unable to withstand the rolling power of the lightning. It trembled and shattered. Dragging their broken bodies, the 4 of them looked at each other without making a sound. Star God Sealing Technique. With a roar, the 4 of them suddenly turned into 4 stars and shot into the sky, sealing the Moon Demon. This was one of the 36 true inheritances of the Xingqian school, the Star God Sealing Technique. This technique was created by an ancient supreme of the Xingqian school. It could seal gods and absorb demons, and it could evolve a god sealing eye. With this technique, the Star God Sealing Technique had sealed many supreme of the time. In the past, the outstanding outer court disciple Ding Li had also cultivated this technique. In the past, Ding Li was even more ingenious. He combined the 100 Refinements Divine Weapon Technique with the Star God Sealing Technique to cultivate the 7 Slaughter God Sealing Technique. This technique combined the 7 slaughter stars and the killing aura of heaven, earth, and man. It was invincible, capable of killing gods and slaying ghosts. By relying on this technique, it was easy to kill enemies above one's level. However, it met Qin Feng and was destroyed by Qin Feng with the Chaos Fire. In fact, Ding Li had also gone astray. Although he had created the 7 Slaughter God Sealing Technique, it was still far inferior to the original Star God Sealing Technique. At this time, this technique was being used by the 4 World King level Old Antique. The billions of stars in the sky seemed to light up, and the surging star laws seemed to appear. It was as if countless stars had appeared around Lunar Peak, receiving the endless power of the stars from the galaxy and supporting Gu Haozi, Gu Qingzi, Gu Lingzi, and Gu Hongzi. A huge power locked onto them. The vitality of all living beings in Lunar Peak seemed to have solidified, and the wind and moon froze. Even though he was hundreds of feet away and inside Princess Yuqian's body, Qin Feng felt a chill from the bottom of his heart. His saint's soul thoughts revolved in an obscure way. 4 huge silver god sealing eyes appeared above the stars that the 4 of them had transformed into. This power. At this moment, whether it was the many Silvermoon clan commanders who were rebelling in Moonless Forest or the many Moon Eclipse Demon clan experts outside Moonless Forest. All of them cast their gazes to the center of Moonless Forest. At this moment, it was as if countless stars had appeared around Lunar Peak in broad daylight. It seems that the Moon Demon clan is in big trouble. The childlike Sun King's eyes contained a trace of murderous intent. He looked around and saw that most of the Moon Eclipse Demon clan experts had found their opponent. These existences all had extremely powerful auras. Star power appeared on their bodies, making them look like flying stars. The old antiques of Xingqian school. In front of him, there was a burly red-haired youth who looked like the sun in the sky. Lord Qi Ling. The previous Elder Qi Ling was also the master of the current Elder Qi Ling. He was also the ancestor of one of Qin Feng's good friends, Qi Ling, an 8th-level world king. Moreover, he was an 8th-level world king who possessed the 84th-ranked supreme fire attribute treasure, the extreme sun banner, as his life treasure. The two of them were evenly matched. Even though he had the innate true artifact, the fire attribute furnace, he couldn't get rid of his opponent in a short period of time. The four of them seemed to have turned into four huge god-sealing eyes. Divine light burst out, and even the Moon Demon couldn't move for a short period of time. Beams of god-sealing light shrouded her as if she was peeling silk from a cocoon. It shrouded all her meridians and saint souls, trying to seal her completely. Seeing this, a trace of joy appeared in the Silvermoon Queen's eyes. It's not enough. It's far from enough. Qin Feng shook his head. There's more later. You're tuning in to the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.